All right, everybody, welcome. This is our first show called the Black Male Survival Guide. And the aims of the show is to educate black men about the emergent wisdom concerning African Americans, or
Sorry.
what is now dubbed ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves, or FBA, Foundation of Black Americans. And the topic of today's show is called Are Black People Being Genocided? Are African Americans in the United States of America being genocided? And the aims of the question is to set up maybe a legal basis for some kind of litigation, either at the United Nations or within the United States itself. And I've heard people talk about this subject. I've heard people bring it up. I've heard people, talk about why it might be true, why it might not be true. I even had a conversation with ChatGPT, and it didn't agree that Black people were undergoing a genocide in this country. But so first, we're going to start off with the definition of genocide, because this is what some of my disagreement with ChatGPT was. When I asked ChatGPT if Black people are going through a genocide in this country, it told me no, and then it gave me the definition of genocide. And the definition was the colloquial definition, and we're essentially going to read the standard Merriam-Webster's definition, which is the deliberate and systematic destruction of a racial, political, or cultural group. Now, I argued back and said, well, that's a limited definition. It's very kind of vague. I was like, the United Nations definition is a little bit more concise. And I was like, when you look at that definition, we actually we fall under at least 4 of the 5 elements of that definition. So now we're going to read the United Nations definition, which is a legal definition. So the current definition of genocide. Mr. Unseen, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Can you mute up for me just a second? Huh?
Did that make it go away? I heard it.
Yeah. Testing. Yeah, okay, it's gone. All right. So real quick, I'm going to read the legal definition. It says, the current definition of genocide is set out in Article 2 of the Genocide Convention. Genocide means any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group as such. A, killing members of the group. B, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. C, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. D, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. And E, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. Now, the next part I want to read, I think, is important because it sort of outlines the particulars of what makes something genocide and what makes something not genocide, or what they would consider genocide. And the United Nations says the intent is the important part, and they said it's the hardest part to try to prove. But anyway, here we go. The definition of genocide is made up of 2 elements: the physical element, the acts committed, and the mental element, the intent. Intent is the most difficult element to determine. To constitute genocide, there must be a proven intent on the part of perpetrators to physically destroy a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. Cultural destruction does not suffice, nor does it an intention to simply disperse a group, though this may constitute a crime against humanity as set out in the Rome Statute. Now, that being said, there is evidence that this country has tried to disperse Black people in many, many different ways. So even from a legal standpoint, we could probably even sue on that guy as a crime against humanity, because like I said, there's evidence to suggest this or to show this. Now, continuing, it says, it is this special intent, or dolus specialis, that makes the crime of genocide so unique. To constitute genocide, it also needs to be established that the victims are deliberately targeted, not randomly, because of their real or perceived membership of one of the 4 groups protected under the convention. This means that the target of destruction must be the group as such, or even a part of it, but not its members as individuals. Now, today, we're going to be discussing 2 of the 5 points that the United Nations listed as genocide. Because I think the last point, which was E, I don't think we fall under forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. Now, you guys tell me if you disagree with that or if you have evidence of the contrary, but I don't think that we will fall under that. But the other 3 of them, I think we strongly fall under. I think A, killing members of the group, is probably the weakest. I don't think people are going out there and mass killing black people in this country like how the Jewish people were killed in, say, Nazi Germany. But I still think you could make an argument for A, but it's tied to other elements in that definition. One of the main things I wanted to first talk about, well, before I do that, do you guys want to chime in about this, about the definitions, or whether or not you even think that we're undergoing a genocide? And I'll mute it up and let you guys kind of speak.
Go ahead, a video, and then I'll follow up.
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hey, well, I would say yes. But first off, I want to make sure that you can hear me. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello? Okay. Yeah, just first off, I would say yes, I believe there's a sense of genocide, but it's through benign neglect. In the senses where, from chattel slavery and not basically giving us resources to restore and to rebuild ourselves, they left us to our own devices to try to make sense and make some kind of production. To be productive and with the little scraps that we were able to hold on to. Hold on 1 second. You're gonna have to cut this out. I'm at a drive-through.
Oh, that's cool. We'll just mute up for us. Just mute up for us.
All right. Go ahead. If you don't mind.
I'll step in.
Yeah.
I always like to get to the beginning, and I'm glad we opened with this and talking about the survival guide, because I always ask to what, right? Why are we bringing this up? And it's, if you know this is happening, and I really want to go back when they brought people here, especially to South America, they were on a timetable anyway, right? Bringing them there, they worked, and then they died, right? Then people in America, the slaves here, all right, they reproduced, and then they had children born into slavery, and it extended. But I don't think at any time it was they were developing it, how we would survive here as they were going on, and our rate of gaining freedom was locked to what they wanted us to be able to do. But I think that we were always kind of on a timetable, and then slavery ended, and everyone, okay, we're not gonna, okay, well, you read it about it. I forget the name, but they're always saying, some of the black writers that came out right at the time of slavery, and they were saying, what's to be done with them? I think it's Du Bois. What's to be done with them? Talk about Negroes from the North that came down to the South, looking beneath the veil. What's to be done with them? Because there was no plan, right? So then a new plan was made, and based on the hearts and minds of the people in charge at that time, they set a new timetable. If you go back, and I hate to bring him up, if you want to go back and listen to Huey P. Newton, not Huey P. Newton, but H. Rap Brown, and he gives his political education. He says you have to think about someone has you on a timetable at all times anyway. Everybody has someone else where everybody's on a chess board. I hate to use the played out analogy. Let's say Go, instead of chess. But you're on someone's timetable on what they want from you, what they're going to get from you, when they're going to get it with you. And everybody else should have a plan on what they're going to get from somebody else in a timetable for them. We don't have a timetable in our group, so it's like, oh God, everybody got what they gonna do with us and stuff like that, because we are really struggling to get our minds together to say, okay, this is who we are, and when this group comes here and they offer this, we'll say no, exchange that, because this is what we really want.
Can I push back on you a little bit?
Please go ahead.
Because you said something at the beginning of your point, and you said that if you know this is happening to you, and I don't think most ADOS FBA people know what's happening to them. I'll give you a good example, right? I was having a conversation with somebody on Facebook.
Let me correct. I didn't say that. I said when I talked about H. Rap Brown, he said you must assume it even if you don't know it. Even when you think about America, China, we have to assume China has America on a timetable.
Yeah, but one of the reasons why I want you to be on here, Mr. Unseen, is because you take a militaristic, military mindset to our issues. And what I'm saying is most Black people aren't doing that. So I agree, we should assume that, but most Black people aren't.
Anything in competition, change from military and say business. You have to assume that some other company is going to come and try to buy you out.
Most Black people
it's part of the game.
Most Black people don't own business. Most Black people don't run business. Most Black people are consumers and employees. So my point still stands. This is one of the reasons why I want to do the show is to educate.
Once again, you must assume someone is going to on your job has you on a timetable, and they're going to somehow get someone to do it better for the same money. No matter where you turn, that same game is there. It's life.
I get what you're saying. What I'm saying is that that's the point of this show, is to educate young Black men and older Black men if necessary, but mostly young Black men because they're the future, about the realities of Black life in this country. So I agree with you. What I'm saying is most of them don't know that. You can't say if you know this is on. Yeah, if you know that, I know that now. I'm assuming Mr. Avidia knows that. But most young Black, matter of fact, when Vidya comes back, he can explain a little bit about what his chosen name means. Part of the reason for this is to shed a light on some of the ignorance of our people, who I think, in many ways, they erroneously conflate comfort with freedom. Even though we're on the bottom of this society, because we live in America and it has so much riches, you know what I'm saying? Even if you're homeless, you're still living better than some people in certain third world and really underdeveloped countries. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the point I'm trying to make, is that I don't think it's as plain as you might want to make it out to be. Again, let me give you just a really quick example, and I'll give the mic back over. I was having a conversation with someone on Facebook years ago, right? And I mentioned many of the things that are ailing Black people, and I started creating a picture. And I was like, look, if these things still continue, in 100 years we won't be here. He couldn't grasp it. He didn't think it was that bad. I was like, dude, when you see an article that says Black wealth will be 0 by 2053, well, like, what do you think that means? It means you're on your own. That means if you today don't take action to change that tide, what's going to happen is our numbers are going to be so low in this place that we practically don't exist. We'd be like Native Americans. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think people can connect all. They know things are bad, but they also think that a lot of things have gotten better because of the civil rights movement. They're still in a civil rights mindset. And until that mindset changes, I don't think we're going to see any change in the relevant kingdoms of agency. But I'll pass the mic back over.
I see exactly what you're saying. I would say, just from a an organism standpoint? Is your environment getting better? And if so, you should be asking why. Right? If any human, right? Look, if inflation, if everybody made TikTok video on how you can't afford anything anymore, and then that your next conclusion should be, okay, I can't afford anything. I can't make money. Why? How many, and this is something that happens to a monthly process. It's not like ancient history. You barely made rent last month.
Sometimes you're cutting.
Then the next month.
Mr. Johnson, sometimes you're cutting in and out a little bit. I don't know what that is. I'm starting to believe it is your mic, because remember, this was happening on StreamYard too, and now it's not nearly as bad on here. I'm still making out most of what you're saying. Right. I don't get quite what's going on there. But I'll say this. I think that put it this way. We've been bred in a certain way in this country. And now that Black consciousness is dying, when those things happen to Black people, they're going to think that it's class. They're going to think that, I just didn't work hard enough, or I need to go to school. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to think that there's a systemic problem that has been set really since the end of slavery that has put us on this course. So, and I think that's the larger point I'm trying to make is that not most Black people, they're not going to see it. They can't see it, and that's why part of the reasons why we're doing this show, so that they can make better decisions based on the reality, not what they want to believe or not what they hear in propaganda. You know what I'm saying? But the reality of where we're headed.
Well, here's what I see. I think most Black people, right? You got groups, Black Lives Matter. They have identified, okay, Black people have a problem, but it usually that energy, they usually turn it into something that it benefits, another group, a certain person, or whatever. But the main people is supposed to help. It doesn't make it back to them. But if you wanted to look at a contrast, why don't Black people boycott? I like to bring that up because it saves money. And I like to save money. Anybody out there want to call me broke? I like to save money. I'd rather put it in investment, flashy stuff. But when you look at like boycotting, what an excellent way for you to save money. They don't put you on there anyway. Don't give them your money and say, I'm not giving you my money because of it. There's two in one stroke, right? That type of tactic has been taken out the playbook. It's almost like your revolution is served to you as part of the menu on things that people consume here. So when you're upset, they go ahead, they got stuff they sell you now, so you can protest. People, there's an economy that follows that your dissatisfaction now. It still feeds into the same thing, But when they said we're not gonna ride this bus, and they like we ain't getting the money, it's a whole different story. To the point where they gotta make carpooling illegal. That's 2 in one stroke right there. Save your money, stick with your own group. If you're gonna treat me bad, then I'm gonna save my money and stay over here. But everybody wants to. It's either like you got to do some radical violent thing, or you got to go somewhere, take off your job, drive way across the country where they set up all these shops to sell you bottled water and all this stuff. And this is how you protest and spend your money on the same economy. And they take that money and boom, they put that foot right back on whatever problem you had. Right. It could be better managed, I think, as far as if you're going to call it effective, even the little moves, the individual and the group should be able to say, okay, we got a little bit better out of this.
I know, but all I'm saying is that I think that with integration, not just of the schools, but the economies in general, and the social integration that's happening, and the fact that Black consciousness is dying, it's going to be harder to do something like an economic boycott than I would say maybe something like a political boycott. But that's just me. But let's get back to the subject.
Why would it be harder to save your money? I have to push back on that one. Why would it be harder to just say, hey, screw you, and name a company and save your money?
I think it would be harder, one, because we have less Black consciousness, so it's gonna be harder to rally people around an economic.
Not harder for us. Why would it be harder for the group to do it? If it's in your best interest.
I'm trying to answer your question. I think it would be harder for us because there's less Black consciousness. We don't have the same amount of cohesiveness, so it would be harder, I think, to do an economic boycott because so much of us depend on goods and services from outside the community, and that coupled with the fact that we don't have as much close-knit communities anymore, so it's harder to get people who used to live around each other say, hey, yeah, we're all not going to ride the bus today, or we're all not going to do this or that today. It's harder to do that now. We're just not as close-knit as a people. Even the people who live close together aren't as unified, because most of the intelligentsia and the leadership type people who would live in those communities have been integrated into the white community. So what do you have left? You have the ratchets, and then you have people who are trying to move out of that type of environment. So that's why I think it would be harder.
I hear you on that, but I'm thinking of things simple. Okay, I always like to joke with you and say, all right, let's not watch football for you. Let's not watch football. Let's not buy football. So watch basketball, watch baseball, watch the other sports. Pick one and save your money and your time on it.
Look, Mr. Unseen.
Why would that be hard?
Unseen, I agree with you, but that's a different topic for a different show. Let's bring it back to genocide. Mr. Avidia, did you have anything else that you wanted to say before I move on?
Oh no. Well, basically, I was listening to both of your sides, and I do agree that Black consciousness is dying, but it's a concerted effort. It's not by a lack of opposition from the major majority. I think from the so-called CRT, that big push on trying to make Black consciousness or Black identity something that makes Black, white folks feel their children feel bad. And that's what the play that they're trying to do. Well, and yes, there's genocide going on. I do believe that because it's all about resources and the keeping away of that resources to people of color. And the reason why a lot of Black people do not see Black ideology or consciousness as something that they could use is because they don't see any power in it. Hold on, I had to go on mute again. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Well, I'd like to say something. It does go with why you're genocide. Remember, the topic and where this happened tonight is not important, or as important as your mission and what you plan to do about it. And what you plan or the group plans to do about it involves the strategy and tactics to get around that. If you want to look at it, you could have looked at the same article from 1980. It would have showed them that then. 1960, you could have seen it then. They could have probably sat in the room. Somebody sat in the room, man said out his mouth. So you looked at it for 100 years. People have known this was going to eventually happen. And you have looked at lack of aid and Jim Crow and all this for these years. Every family is going to tell you, hey, well, there's something wrong out there and you better work twice as hard. Every family's got some boogeyman story they're trying to tell you and then tell you got to vote Democrat to get around it. So it's obvious. So your parents told you, be scared of this. As little kids, don't date this person and all that stuff. They packed into that. Right? They didn't leave you defenseless. Oh, everything's all right. They scared you every chance they got. Do this and do that. The remedies were stupid. I hate to say it like that. But they understood this kind of thing was happening.
Well,
It's the tactics.
I'll say.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to push back a little bit on the video. I agree with him about the point.
Okay,
about,
I'm back. I'm so sorry about that.
Okay.
But
yeah, go ahead.
But what I was saying is that I just think it's to keep it. If you understand geopolitical strategy, I think, and you see this played out. What happened in South Africa. What's going on in Palestine, for the most part, the squeezing into the takeaway of the resources. So, that and the displacement, and that's what, what they're doing here in North America with African Americans, preferably the FBA, or ADOS people that, But
I wanted to push back a little bit on something you said at the beginning of your the points you were making, because I actually 100% agree with you on the genocide part and the aspect when it comes to resources and geopolitics. But when you were saying that there was concerted effort by the dominant society, to kind of destroy aspects of Black identity or Black consciousness. And one of the examples you gave was the what's the thing called with the thing they had in the schools? What was it called? You mentioned
CRT.
Yeah, CRT, critical race theory. My problem with that argument is that Black consciousness was dying way before that attack on CRT came, and I think if I want to put blame or responsibility, that's Black people's fault. That's Black people's fault, because we don't nurture Black consciousness in Black families. It just doesn't happen. I don't see it. I just don't see it. So regardless of what they do in the schools, if you're not teaching your own goddamn children, then you've already lost. But again, that might be a part that could also be associated with some of the more macro, larger institutional things that are being created. So in some sense, I do agree with you. In other senses, I don't. We, as Black people, if we're going to be a free people, right? With that freedom comes responsibility. So if you care about your destiny, you have to start saying whatever happened to you or your people in the past, you have to start making decisions now that's going to affect the future in a better way, regardless of what other people try to do. You have to have plans and contingency plans. To have power, you have to embrace it. You have to embrace that side of things. Whether we're victims or not, you have to throw off victimhood. You see what I'm saying? Is the point, the larger point I guess I'm trying to make. Yes, we're victims. I would 100% agree with that. But if you don't want to be a victim anymore, you have to throw that victimhood off and say, hey, this is the direction we're going to go in. If anyone gets in our way, these are the things we're going to do to stop them from getting in our way. And I think part of that is there's no way in hell Black people are going to control the public school system in this country, but you can control what happens in your own goddamn home. You can. But I'm going to move on to go ahead if you want to respond.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that we need to try to control what's going on in the public, which we need to, but it's going to be hard unless we have our own, our own charter schools. That's still public somewhat. Our own private schools. And that's what we
just in the family, like why is it I was having this argument with some other people in the Black manosphere, and they were they're pushing back on me. It was like, Jews have schools. Before they had schools, they had education in the home. One thing Jewish people value is education. One of the reasons why some people argue the reason why they usually have higher IQs than other people is because they come from a culture of debating. They debated everything. That didn't start in the schools. That started at home, with them reading the Bible and the Torah and all that stuff like that, or at least putting the value in valuing that started at home at least. So when they went to school, they could get some better outcomes because they already valued education. The opposite happens in the Black community.
Well, there you go. I mean, but that's the problem, is that a lot of Black people lost because the Jewish community is insulated by their culture, which is their religion. Yes, their culture and their religion, for the most part. All right, thank you. So that they, for the most part, the Black community, we don't have that. We were stripped of that. So right now it's been replaced with hip hop. That's the reason why we put so much emphasis on our music and these pop, these rap stars, more so than we do religion for the most part. But the Jewish community, they have their own language. I'm talking Ozzy, not what do you call them?
Ashkenazi.
Yeah, Ashkenazi Jews, for the most part, and they have text, they have religion to cultivate and to push on. They have a book on what to do and what not to do. Black people don't have that, and we did, but that was stripped from us.
I want to push back just a little bit on that. Even though it's not the best book, how well do Black people follow the 10 Commandments?
The 10 Commandments? What? I don't understand the question.
You said Jewish people had a book with some guidelines on how they should behave. We have a book with some guidelines. In general, how well do you think Black people follow just the basic 10 Commandments? When it comes to other Black people, not any other group.
Not any other. Oh, you talk about Christianity?
Well, just the commandments. If we phrase it like this, I will not steal from another Black person. I will not kill another Black person. I will not pursue another Black person's wife or husband, and so on. How well do we follow that tenet we already have?
Again, it depends on the circumstances. I mean, thou shalt not kill.
As a group. Let's look at the last 50 years as a group. Give me a percentage. I need a number.
Of Black people, I would say in the last 50 years, you talking about before BC, before crack, or
I'm saying Black people in America from 1950 until today. How well do they follow the religion and the established rules that they already have? Where's the discipline?
Very much so, because we had. When it comes
to other Black people, thou shalt not steal from another Black person today. Thou shalt not kill another Black person today. How's that working out?
I would say that percentage is low. I would say it's more like 30 to 40%. And the reason being,
have you seen the murder rate? Have you seen the murder rates among young black men?
No. Recently?
No. Yeah, even recently they're astronomical. I mean, everyone else pales in comparison.
Yes, but again, it goes back to not having resources.
No, I agree with you on that.
In any other group, there's a consequence. There's no consequence in ours. There's no. If you come and you do whatever to my family, I'm supposed to do a Jesus roll. And then let that go and nothing happen to you other than what the government wants to do to you. But I am not the exact revenge. That part is missing in our culture. Gangsters might do something like that, but just in general, where a gangster accidentally kills a normal person's little girl, he doesn't hunt down. Or the group or his family or his part of the community doesn't say, hey, this needs to not just serve time in jail for that, but you need to answer to this family because they're part of this community. He watches my kids when they get home from school early. We got to get you for that one.
All right, Mr. Russell, let him respond.
Go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, I agree with you. I wish we had we did have something like that. We created organizations from the Nation to the Black Panthers, even through the Greek, the little Greek, fraternities and sororities for the most part, to have accountability, to have some kind of group that shares the same value system. But again, it goes back to what I'm saying. The reason I believe this, again, is just my opinion, The reason why I think a lot of African Americans off one another is, one, they don't value each other as much as they value every other race for the most part. And secondly, they have something to prove for the most part for being emasculated. And one thing is, if you can't exert your dominance or your supremacy in the physical world through means of controlling, owning land or owning some type of resources or through education, you're gonna, and you reduce to the level of a beast, you're gonna start acting like a beast, and that's what I think. That's what's going on, and we glorify it through hip hop. I mean,
Mr. Ernstine.
I want to respond.
Yeah, but I don't want you to respond because I think he made his point. I think you made your point, and I think his point perfectly is a good segue to the next point I want to make about genocide of the African Americans, because I think what Mr. V is speaking to is that there are larger macro conditions being set that creates that type of behavior on a large scale. And in other communities, when this type of behavior exhibited itself, real policy was set in place to alleviate it. That's not happening for ADOS people.
I'll be real quick. If the consequence for someone hurting another black person was twice what it was if they hurt somebody outside the group, if you killed another brother, you could expect death. Your family was going to death. We killed your whole bloodline. Not saying anybody should do this. This is the internet. Okay? But if it was something that drastic, then we could stop it.
Who are the? Let me ask you this, because we were talking about this earlier. Who are the type of people best suited to implement that type of law? That type of
the victim,
huh?
The victim.
Oh, the victim. So victims historically have risen up to exact that type of justice.
When need be.
That's bullshit.
Somebody in somebody's family.
It's bullshit. It's usually some larger force that implements justice, unless you're talking about tribal hunter and gatherer types.
We're tribes. We are literally tribes of black people.
We're tribes of black people
in America.
Modern world. In a modern world.
But still, we're tribes.
Yeah, we are in a modern world.
We're different.
Someone else has the monopoly on force, and it ain't freaking us.
No. But here's the deal, right? If someone harms, half of it comes from the system. The other half of it comes from its family.
And when that other half goes after the other family, what do you think is going to happen to them from the system half?
That part, you make sure it does not. You do what you need to do.
Do you see my point, though?
I'm not saying. I get what you're saying.
That's saying the best people to implement those types of things won't do it, or either they won't or can't.
Well, I put it this way: if a person is a valued person in the community, then that community should do everything that should be necessary to not only make sure that community is not touched again, but to replace that person. And if you don't do that, don't use the word community again. Because if you can't protect whatever you build, then why build anything at all? And if somebody from in our same group can come and touch our kids and do whatever and get away with it, and all they have to do is say to get away with it, they black. And then they pay some fancy lawyer. And you're a living target. You make a little money, somebody come take it away. You try to teach your kids right, somebody come put poison in their ear or in their body. We're gonna have to edit the hell out this. But you get the point. We have to say at some point, we had it here at a certain. When I see the kids.
Right. All right, Mr. Ernstine, we're going off into the weeds. I want to kind of get back to the genocide part of it.
Go ahead.
But I get what you're saying. But the next part I wanted to talk about was because I think if there's any kind of legal basis that's going to be made, we have to prove intent. We would have to show intent that this country has either one, used benign neglect to set up conditions so that it will be very hard for black people to thrive, or two, they literally put into place policies that would that would either push people in ways that to act in self-destructive manners or cause destruction itself. So the next part I want to read. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. That's the thing that's really upsetting to me of late. By going, being invited to different meetings and understanding that you're right. It's hard to prove racism. Unless the person says, "Hey, the reason why I beat you or the reason why I hit you is because of your race." Let's say, tantamount to a confession. You needed, to prove that. That only applies to us. But unfortunately, and that's the thing I'm jealous with the LGBT community. You can feel a certain way, and they pass laws based on your feelings.
Yeah,
but they don't do that for us.
Good point. Really good point. They do it with the feminists too, and immigrants.
Yeah,
and Asians. You know what I'm saying? So, but I will say that I think that the evidence I think is there. But I don't know of any lawyers or the NAACP or whomever have they come together and say, hey, look, we're going to compile all this evidence to show, hey, look, here's where they actually, did things or did not do their due diligence as the government to help facilitate the needs of the citizens of Black citizens or whatever, or deliberately left us out of things. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, you can go to any high school. That hence goes back to the whole fight with the CRT. While a lot of white families and parents fighting against the so-called scourge of CRT, it's because of that very reason. You can go to any high school, middle school, and look through the history book, see the benign neglect of how this country is treated ADOS FBA people through chattel slavery up to Reconstruction, past Reconstruction, when we tried up to 1965 when we so-called got all of our unalienable rights. And even then, that's when the mass incarceration started kicking in from Michelle Alexander's book in 1971-72, that's when the whole big mass incarceration started, because they couldn't legally deny us from this or that. Then they started incarcerating us. Yeah. So that,
the whole drug war.
It's not, they got a cornucopia of evidence. It's just that it's no willful. It's like I said. They pretend.
The problem. Though with some of that though is they got plausible deniability. So unless something specifically says in law we're going to do this to harm Black people, again, it's hard to improve intent. But I think if you could, because you can make a case that when the law and the statements were more clear in the old days, directly led to what we see today, I think that's the better way to go about doing it, because it's going to be harder. They don't come right out and say it today. But let me move on, because I'm going to get to some of those things here in a second.
I wanted to
come on, man, trying to move on. Go ahead.
I wanted to say just a little bit something like that, and remember, we're trying to kind of encapsulate if the mission is to win the court case, right? To do what? You win the court case, what happens?
The idea of the court case is to get reparations. Then
you get reparations. Good enough. You get the goal, right?
Yeah. This right here would be on top of slavery, like Mr. Vidya said, the benign neglect, the Jim Crow, the policy where we either left out or the policy that intentionally was set to harm us. I think you could throw all that in there and say, hey, this is why, from a legal basis, whether you go to the United Nations or you sue the federal government.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it with this then. In the Cold War, yeah. Do you think it would work now? Now that the Cold War is over and the world's not watching what America does to Black people?
That depends on Black people.
That doesn't.
Because if you look at what's going on,
suing the government work?
If you look at what's going on in the world right now, with China on the rise, with Russia fighting Ukraine. You got the whole thing in Palestine and Israel right now. There are opportunities there. If black people become obstructionists in this country, especially to like immigrants, especially to social advancement, liberal advancement, and you already kind of see it happening because Trump won that first election, that first term. Well, you had the appeal of abortion rights, you have the appeal of affirmative action. Black men in particular have to be at the lead of being obstructionists to liberal advancement into immigration in this country. Because then when you do that, now you have more leverage. Now you can say, hey, look, you want me to go this way, but I'm going to go in the opposite direction until these demands are met. And then that makes us look bad around the world because less and less people are going to have rights. It's going to be more and more expensive to do things. Less and less immigrants can come here, which is going to affect their population numbers. One of the reasons why they bring so many immigrants here is because they're trying to compete with places like India, China, and then eventually Africa, who has the youngest, the African continent, which has the youngest population density in the world. So they're next in line after China to probably be the center of the world. It all falls population. Shout out to BGS and Alex Jones, who I actually learned this from.
If they say no,
if they say no, you keep doing. You're gonna die off anyway. That's all we have left. You're gonna die off anyway.
You said you, not we.
Well, in general, black people are going to die off. This is the last. That's the last. Huh?
What percent?
Well, right now,
and what day?
Right now,
not what day, but what?
Let me finish what I'm saying. Right now,
what decade?
We're only about 14% of the population. If they're saying black wealth is going to be zero by 2053, I would say in 100, 200 years, it's going to be like 3 or 4% of the population. That's like Native American numbers.
So if you, like he asked in the video we watched, referring back to watch the Education of Political Education by H. Rap Brown. He said, now you have a timetable you established.
Yeah.
Right? Now you give it a rate. And if you know that there's a certain threshold that's in there that you say this is a line that
never let it cross as far as population rate.
or anything.
Say it again because you kind of cut out there.
I said you've established there's a timetable, right? And there's a rate of decrease. And there's a threshold in there that you know
Point of no
return. If you're going to do something, it has a certain timetable it should hit where things come together.
What it is, but you were doing well, but now that thing it just keeps cutting out. I don't know if it's a wire on your headphones or something.
How about now?
Yeah, it's better now.
What was the last thing you heard?
Timetable, line, something.
If you have a timetable where you have to get something done, there's a point of no return. There's a point where you have to have a
amount of stuff done for the
project will not. When you look at anything that we plan to do, whether it be legal, any of the solutions, we make it.
Granted, I agree with you, but I want to kind of move on because a couple of things I wanted to let you guys hear.
Well, my question is, when is that timetable?
I mean, I just laid it out. 2053, black wealth zero.
What's the point of no return? What's the point where we have to have this all around?
I mean,
year.
I agree. Like I don't know. I can't give you an exact year now. I have to think about that a little bit more. But I will say, hey, look, this place is being overrun with immigrants. Right now, we're 14% of the population, and now we're third when it comes to the highest population. At one time we were second. What's his name? What's the guy's name? The black guy that Boyce always has on.
Claude Anderson.
He laid it out. He was like, look, we got to start unifying for reparations and for economic policy specific for African Americans. Because if you don't, these immigrants are going to come here just like, look, this is the first time this happened. The first time it happened was actually European immigrants that came here, and we were fighting for them with jobs, and we were left out of things like labor movements and
according to him, it's over.
Well, some people say.
Didn't he say 20? Didn't he say this year?
What?
What year did he give you?
I don't look.
Is it 2030?
Look, unless you know specifically. But let me move on because unless you know specifically what he said, I don't want to guess. I want to move on to my other points so you can hear him. So the next part I wanted to read because I think this ties into the the killing members of the group, and also D, imposing measures intended to prevent the births within the group, and that is the eugenics movement in the 20th century. And really, the eugenics movement actually started before that, before it had a name. They always controlled the births of black women, in particular because they didn't want slaves to outnumber white people in a given area. So that, they had serious conversations about that. But anyway, I'm going to read the definition of eugenics. It's from Merriam-Webster. It is the practice or advocacy of controlled selective breeding of human populations as by sterilization to improve the population's genetic composition. And then it's broken up into two different forms. You have positive eugenics, which have the goal of improving the human race by encouraging those with the desirable traits to breed. Idea being, and this is taken from the Maafa Pt.1 documentary, idea being whites would have to have so many children it will overwhelm the black population. Now they tried that, it didn't work. The second way is called negative eugenics, and this focuses on reducing degenerate offspring by preventing those that have undesirable traits from breeding. And again, from the Maafa Pt.1 documentary, which I think falls in line with the UN definition of genocide, section D, says create an environment where blacks would severely limit the amount of children they have and therefore commit race suicide. And I think that's largely what we're seeing in the black community is racial suicide promulgated by really bad genocidal policy. And a good example of that, I think, if we look at another community, I believe is in Puerto Rico. And this is from, I hope I didn't lose it. Yeah, this is from Miss Magazine. Now, I don't particularly like Miss Magazine. They're a feminist tripe, but I think this article does have some validity. But it says, I'm going to start reading here. So it says, now the context here is that the women who were the most sterilized during the eugenics period in this country also today self-sterilize the most. So that's the context. So I'll start reading. It says, so it's a starting statistic that today some of the very populations that were subject to this abuse have high rates of voluntary sterilization. A recent report by the Urban Indian Health Institute showed that compared to non-Hispanic white women in gray, American Indian and Alaskan Native women in cream have very high rates of sterilization. What to make of this? Iris Lopez, in an article titled Agency, Constraint, Sterilization, and Reproductive Freedom Among Puerto Rican Women in New York City, writes about what she discovered when she asked Puerto Rican women in New York City why they chose to undergo sterilization. During the U.S. colonization of Puerto Rico, over 1/3 of all women were sterilized. And today, still, Puerto Rican women in both Puerto Rico and the U.S. have one of the highest documented rates of sterilization in the world. 2/3 are sterilized before the age of 30. Lopez found that 44% of the women she surveyed would not have chosen the surgery if their economic conditions were better. They wanted more children but simply could not afford them. They also talked about the conditions in which they lived and explained that they didn't want to bring children into the world. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of it. The rest pretty much just reiterates what I just said there. But I will say that I think a lot of times when I talk to the hardcore individualists, they say, well, black people just made better choices. Black people just did this and black people just did that. But we discontinue or we don't look at the how the environment was created and why people are pushed into those choices. And I think that's important because a lot of African American culture is a culture of what's the term I'm looking for? What's the thing where you have a negative psychological anyway, a lot of African American culture is negative culture that started on the plantation and it's evolved from there. And I think one could make a case and say, hey, look, you took these people, you stole their culture, you stole their language, you stole their religion, you at first worked them to death, and then when you couldn't do that anymore, you brought the women over here, then you bred them like chattel. It's created all type of negative psychologies. You're saying that he's evolved into what we see today. I think one could make an argument and put that argument in the reparations legal legal fight. I think that a lot of African American culture was formed by the dominant society, and for what they did to us, in the conditions that they put us in. Now we can make all the arguments of what we should do to get out of those conditions, and then it goes on to individual responsibility. I get all that. What I'm saying is, if we want to win some kind of legal case, we have to lay the case out. We can't make all kind of excuses. Well, black people should have done this, and black people should have done that. That's hindsight, and I think we can learn from hindsight. But again, what 12-14% of the population, literally the belly of the beast. If we have any kind of legal recourse, this I think is the way to do it. You have to lay it out. But I'll let you guys chime in.
Well, like I always like to get to it, I say it. How many times? And we were talking earlier, the election. If you thought you were going to get something out the election, the first 4 years I'll give you. But just like that president says, stupid is stupid does. What he say? Fool me, he couldn't get it right. And I don't want to get it wrong on the podcast.
Fool me once, ain't gonna fool me again.
You'll get me the first 4 years. Okay? When you come to that same party comes back and say, you're gonna get me again. And then again. And then again. And we were naming some things like deregulation, then NAFTA, then bank bailout. It's like how many times? And then when you hear people complain and you say, okay, well, now you're going to go, and they'll say, yeah, I'm going to go vote because, yeah, I'm going to fix this problem. Where's the history of you fixing problems? Your specific problems. Well, no, well, okay, now, I gotta wait. Let me finish. Then yeah, but I think they switch it to the ancestor died, so you should vote.
I think you're going off into the weeds again. Remember, this is about creating a legal foundation for reparations. This isn't about voting. This is about.
But the kernel of this is about making people be able to act like a group, so you can do something like doing a legal challenge.
That's part of why we're doing.
If you don't address making a group first, then you'll never get a group action. And I'll let you.
But I think before you can get a group, you have to educate people. You have to educate them. Fred Hampton said it. Without a political education, you don't have anything. You have to educate people on why certain moves are necessary, why discipline is important in the first place. So I agree with you to some extent, but this isn't about voting right now. This is about the legal part of reparations that I think doesn't get as much focus.
Well, voting is an example, but I want to say that when I said voting, I'm talking about, can you do what's necessary on time, period.
I see what you're saying. You're talking about the discipline part.
The discipline part. I use voting as an example, and I use voting again as another example. Are you aware of when you're doing something and it is not working?
Yeah.
And are you taking accountability for that?
I see.
That's all I'm saying.
No, from that standpoint, I do agree with you. I think that part of it is once you learn what the reality is, if you still make the same mistake or if you still move in the same way, then one can argue, hey, look, you're kind of bringing it on yourself now. So yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that. I think that's part of what this is about, is one, educating people on the reality of our situation, particularly black men and boys, and two, coming up with solutions to maybe alleviate some of those problems. But the next thing I wanted to show you guys was a video by a man named Thom Hartmann. He's on YouTube. I've been following him for years, but I actually learned about this from Yvette Carnell. Mr. Ovidia, are you still there? Mr. Ovidia? Because I didn't want to start.
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm going to play the video. I just wanted to make sure you could hear it.
Okay.
Okay, so can you guys hear this?
Care not a right in the United
States. Did y'all hear that?
Yes.
No.
You didn't hear that?
States.
No.
Back in the I believe it was the 1940s.
Did you hear that video?
It's low, but I hear it.
No.
Dang, you still didn't hear it?
Oh, play it again?
No, it's probably the 1950s. The United Nations.
It's real low, though.
It's a subtitle.
Yeah, it's low.
Subtitles. I don't know how I would increase the.
That's fine. I'll put my ear to it.
Oh, okay. So it's low for you too, Mr. Unseen?
It's low.
Dang, what's causing that? Only thing I can think of is maybe turn up the audio on my actual computer, but I thought if I shared it, it should be good. Let me go into this.
That's fine.
Okay, I'll go ahead and play it then.
Why is healthcare not a right in the United States? Back in the I believe it was the 1940s. It was probably the 1950s. The United Nations, in fact, it had to be a little after that. Anyhow, the United Nations negotiated this agreement that pretty much every country in the world except the United States signed, the United Nations Convention on Human Rights, that says healthcare is a right. And every other developed country in the world except the United States acknowledges that healthcare is a right and not a privilege. And that's a really important distinction, because when something is defined or recognized by a government as a right, that means that if people don't have access to it, the government has an obligation to provide it. For example, education.
Can y'all still hear that? I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay.
We have decided in the United States that education is a right. Everyone has a right to a decent education. And that's why if your school is providing your kids with a substandard education, you have the basis actually for a lawsuit, because you have a right to good education. In every other country, every other developed country in the world, healthcare is a right. And different governments have figured out different ways to deliver this to everybody. They basically fall into three buckets, but not the United States. We have not defined this as a right. Those three buckets, by the way, are the American system, which is mostly privatized and for-profit health insurance, the socialized medicine system, which is basically the United Kingdom's National Health Service, and the VA hospitals in the United States. And the third is single-payer health care, which is what we have in the United States with Medicare for all, with Medicare, what we would have if we had Medicare for all, and what other countries have with their single-payer systems. So why is it that we never said in the United States healthcare is a right? Turns out this goes back to the 1880s. In 1884, Germany got their first single-payer healthcare system. Otto von Bismarck. This is even before the German Republic. This is when Germany was an empire. And the head of the German Empire, Otto von Bismarck, pushed through a single-payer healthcare system because he said it would keep the populace and the army healthy, lowest expense to the public purse. In other words, it's the best way to do it. And he was right. That same decade, a guy named Friedrich Ludwig Hoffmann left Germany at the age of 17 with $5 in his pocket and came to the United States as an immigrant. And he was a real, savant. He was a mathematical savant. This guy with numbers he could do magic with numbers. And he ended up getting a job with a Prudential life insurance company, which at the time was the largest insurance company in the United States. And he was running numbers for them to figure out how much to charge people for their life insurance policies. And he's the guy, Friedrich Hoffmann, he's the guy who figured out that there's an association between smoking cigarettes and getting lung cancer, between being exposed to asbestos and getting mesothelioma, the disease that killed my father, and between working in cotton mills and getting fibrosis of the lungs, and also between eating a diet high in processed foods and getting a variety of types of cancer. In fact, his book on diet and cancer is still in print here in 2021, even though he died in 1946. So anyhow, he directed his numerical work toward the so-called race problem, because Prudential at that time and other life insurance companies were trying to figure out how much to charge for their policies. Originally, they just didn't want to cover black people at all. But then, you know, as a market developed, as some black prosperity was emerging in parts of the United States, the insurance companies were like, okay, what do we charge? And so Hartmann ran the numbers. And sure enough, black people were dying at higher rates than white people, and they were getting sick at higher rates than white people. Now, you and I today in 2021 know that all has something called systemic racism, but that wasn't even a phrase back in the 1890s. And so Frederick Hartmann wrote this book based on his math, based on his research, titled Race Traits and Tendencies of the American Negro. He published this in 1896, the same year Plessy versus Ferguson turned America legally and officially into an apartheid nation with, separate but equal.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon
God, it won't let me skip it.
is not with physical product.
Just mute it. Come on. Oh, I can skip. Oh, there we go.
And in his book, Race Traits, Frederick Hartmann, pointed out that blacks were dying and getting sick, at higher numbers than whites, but then made a couple of logical leaps that he believed the evidence, the numeric evidence, supported, but now we know historically is just nonsense. The first was that this was because the reason why black people were dying at higher rates and getting sick at higher rates was because they were genetically inferior to white people. In fact, he went so far as to say that during slavery, black people were healthy and happy, his phrase. But post-slavery, without the white person to protect them, the black race, his phrase, began to essentially disintegrate. So which led him to his second hypothesis, which was in his book, Race Traits in 1896, which was that if white people who control the politics and most of the economy of the United States simply deny health care to black people, the black race, again his phrase, would die out in 2 or 3 generations. And that would, quote, solve the race problem in America. Frederick Hartmann took this theory, pitched it to Congress.
Now, before I continue, you guys heard what this guy said right now. He was like a very influential guy. But I just wanted to reiterate. After he said that, I want to reiterate the United Nations definition, D, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, and C, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. I just wanted to reiterate that to bring it back to the topic, but I'm going to continue playing
it. Gave lectures all across the United States to state legislatures, met with governors, to physicians groups. He was beloved by those establishments. By the way, he was the co-founder of the American Lung Association. I mean, the guy was no slouch. He was powerful, he was famous, and people took him seriously. Woodrow Wilson, and this is why in 1912, when Teddy Roosevelt proposed a single-payer health care system to cover everybody as part of his square deal plan when he was running for president for re-election, this was why that got shot down, because white people, including the medical establishment, white people by and large said, particularly the white racists in the South, said, wait a minute, if you cover everybody with health insurance, you're going to be covering black people too, and we can't have that. So that ended that discussion in 1912. It's also why they came after Franklin Roosevelt in 1936 when he proposed a single-payer system. It's why they came after Harry Truman in 1947 when he proposed a single-payer health care system. But black people, we can't do that. Black people will get that health care. And this is why they came after John Kennedy in 1961 when he proposed a single-payer health care system. And it's why when Lyndon Johnson and Robert Ball were writing the Medicare law in 1965, the Southern racist conservative senators came to them and said, you need to build into this thing a bar high enough that poor black people in the South, and 60% of black people live in the South right now. It was even a higher proportion back then in the 1960s. So the poor black people in the South won't be able to jump over that bar and show up in our all-white hospitals. So they took Medicare Part B, which is the part that pays for hospitalization, and said, we're only going to pay for 80% of the hospitalization. There'll be a 20% gap, which is the gap that you fill in with your Medigap policy now. That gap was to prevent black people from presenting themselves in hospitals unless it was just an absolute screaming life-ending emergency. So from the beginning through the 1960s, the reason why the United States never acknowledged healthcare as a right rather than a privilege was because of Hoffman's theories and white racism. I mean, they were just like intertwined. And American racism. I don't know how else to say it. And that prevailed right up until the 1980s, that kind of thinking and that kind of opposition to any kind of healthcare program that might help black people as well, particularly poor black people, as well as white people. It's why, to this day, 12 former slave states have refused to accept Medicaid, from Texas to Florida. It all goes back to Frederick Hoffman. Which takes us to stage two, which is, why the healthcare companies, or, why it is that we have not been able, since the 1960s, or the 70s, or the 80s, really it's since the 1980s. Why?
All right, and before I let you guys kind of chime in, I just wanted to say a couple more things related to what he was saying. One, going back to the intent aspect of the United Nations definition, I think clearly you can show intent with this situation. Two, this is also related, not so much related, but it's similar to the reason why the South are mostly right to work states, whereas in the North they had unions. It's because they didn't want black people to benefit from any kind of unification with poor whites. Again, intent. And lastly, the last thing I wanted to say is whether or not most white people in positions of power believe that these things today, the point is that policy, and in many respects, anti-policy when it comes to black people, was set long ago. We're talking about freaking early 1900s. No, I take it back, 1800s, because when that guy came over here. Policy was set before the 20th century that set in motion why things are the way they are today, whether we take personal responsibility or not. On a macro sense, certain policies have created the fucking conditions that we find ourselves in now. And these same conditions other people were in when they were impoverished, when they were being oppressed. But policy was made to bring them out of that, whether it's the New Deal, whether it's the labor, the movements, which is one of the reasons why we have Labor Day. You know what I'm saying? I think it's important for black people to remember that. Is that not everything is based on an individual choice, and this goes back to whether you believe in free will or not. And I'm more of a soft determinist. I don't think free will is a real thing in the sense that everyone's just free to do what they want and make decisions. No, like one, you're born. Two, you're born into a family. That family is a culture. You're going to be reared in a certain way, and it takes a whole lot to get you out of that culture. Right? Mr. Unseen says, damn near boot camp. Well, I'm gonna edit this. I'll edit some of that stuff. But
I get to hear it before you release it.
Yeah, damn near boot camp. You need damn near boot camp to get people to change their culture.
And for adults, re-education.
You're muted right now.
For adults, I said re-education. For adults, it's boot camp for young people.
Yeah. So those are the larger points I want to make. I think the black lawyers need to get on it, man. Like I don't have any legal expertise. Where the fuck are they? We got the political side. I mean, it's not perfect. You know what I'm saying? But at least people are out there making noise. At least they're out there getting politicians to pay attention or whatever. Now, but where's the legal side? I don't see it. Now, I've heard rumors that Johnny Cochran, before he died, was gonna attack reparations, but he's fucking dead. He's been dead for years. Who's walking in his footsteps? The only thing I see black lawyers fucking doing right now is when some black person gets killed by a cop, and they go out there and they make the goddamn their families forgive, and then they get money. The family gets money, and then the lawyers get money. Where are the fucking black lawyers that are fighting for reparations? But I'll let you go.
Here in South Carolina, I don't think we have a lawyer that works on what do you call it? Racial
rights case.
But the thing, I like the video because it makes me think of Strom Thurmond when he made the connection about it started with that individual in the southern, the southern politicians made it a point. The southern states made it a point to not to block it, and that a little side note, Strom Thurmond spoke at my brother's graduation when he graduated from Citadel, but and I was the only one booing. But the thing of it is that and that was the first time I've ever learned of Biden when Strom Thurmond passed away, and that they put it on television here, and they Biden spoke at his gave a eulogy, and that was the first time I've ever heard of Biden, but like I said, this stuff hasn't gone away. Right now in this local election, in real time, there are candidates right here trying to fight that, which we call the good old boy system. You understand? What you're asking is, why is there no legislation or anything? Because there's no political will. And I mean, because
that's not what I asked. I didn't ask if there's any legislation. I'm talking about I'm talking about fighting this legally.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. Because legally, the reason why is because the good old boy system, which means is that they are the judges. Mostly they are. They hold the judge, the benches. They're the DA. They controlled everything. I mean, prime example is what's his name in that who killed his wife and son. I can't think. What's his name? Here in what they had the trial in Walterboro.
Yeah, I don't know who
you know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
I didn't hear about that.
You didn't hear about that? I can't think of his name right now. It was a national news.
I know who you're talking about, the murder trial.
I know. I know exactly what.
Yeah.
Now you say the name.
Yeah. I mean, I heard about his grandfather before. Listen, this is not by happenstance. These people control these small towns, even these larger towns like Columbia, North Charleston, and Charleston.
I hear you, Mr. Vidya. Look, what I'm asking you is, okay, I'll say this: no one told Yvette, Thom, Tariq, Professor Black Truth, Jason Black, any of the new black media, hey, look, you guys need to go. They saw there was an issue when it comes to black media It was very it was very cozy with the Democratic Party. It didn't speak to the needs and the reality of black people. So, they did it. They just went out on YouTube and they started doing it. And people responded. Maybe not as much people as I would like, but people started to respond to the point where a small amount of black people had Democrat candidates where they were forced to at least address, whether you like what they said about it or not, they were at least forced to address it. They at least achieved that. They ain't achieved much more than that, but at least they achieved that. Where are the black lawyers who were saying, hey, we see what's going on. We're going to work on the legal side of things. Now, you tell me, because you know more people around this area. Do you know any black lawyers?
Yeah, I do.
Do they talk about reparations? Do they talk about AD West? Do they talk about FE? Do they even know about these things?
They do know about these things, but they see they believe it's a fruitless venture. They're not gonna sacrifice their social capital on something that they don't think is going to yield any fruit. That's the common. The thing of it is that the thing of it is trying to get the reason why I started the Black Collective, which is to try to bring attention to that and to help black people to understand that this is a better built mousetrap. They have no idea what they're in. They're in a war that they're not aware that they're in a war. They think, like you said earlier, they think they're free. They don't understand the difference between someone giving you license and someone giving you freedom. And the thing of it is that when you try to bring it to their, bring it to their attention, I'm talking about the average Joe and the lawyers the black lawyers that you're speaking of, to try to tackle this. The disconnect, because there's a lot of people who, they see, they have family members, they know what's going on. But the thing of it is that they understand the system is rigged, but they can't say it's rigged. because they can, but no, you gotta understand. You understand what I'm saying? Is that it's the same way as, like, if you say, if you don't agree with, let's say, if you don't agree with, you don't agree with, gender being on the spectrum. In polite company, you just can't do that on social media and say, there's only two genders.
Well, let me.
You follow me?
Let me ask you this, right? Now you tell me, and maybe we need to try to get a black lawyer on the show, but you tell me, because I'm like this. All right, black people, we can come together, and we can raise money for all different types of things, even fucking immigrants. I saw some other day with some black people trying to raise money for immigrants. I'm like, you fucking kidding me? Anyway, long story short, we can raise money for all types of things. We can do all kind of Kickstarters, campaigns, and Patreons, and all that stuff like that. You mean to tell me there is not one black lawyer with some fucking balls to say, hey, black people, I'm going to fight for reparations. Here's my Kickstarter campaign or whatever. Just give me, everyone, if 1 million people send me $5 or whatever, you know what I'm saying? We can get this thing started. And he don't even got to do all the work himself. Just you go hire or whatever. You know what I'm saying? At least start to make the case, to make the lawsuit. At least get it written up. Whether we're going to take it federally, locally, or to the or globally to the UN. That's all I'm saying is, where's the creativity at?
When people like us,
I'll mute up.
I was gonna say, when people like us can prove to them that there's more gain than loss, that's when they'll step up. When we do the data and say, look, if you can look at the percentages of new precedents for this type of case in this country, effort, we have a more than 50% chance of it coming off. And
you keep cutting out, man. I don't know what it is. But like you'll go well, you'll do good, and then it just like cut off.
How about now?
I mean, I won't know until you start talking.
I was saying, when people like us can prove to them that it's more to gain for putting that case together than to lose. But as long as it's, okay, we want you to do it, and whatever happens to you, to blow back, we just gonna, let it follow you guys, and your career just fall in the trash. And you don't have your social capital.
That's why I said, though, that
You got to hold them up. That's what I was saying.
But that's what I'm saying. It doesn't even have to be like just one person. It could be a group of lawyers that come together and say, hey, in our spare time, we're going to raise money to fight this issue. So there's not one person has to be the face of it, is the point I'm trying to make.
Listen. The closest person I've seen who, not to make this a plug, but I'm just going to speak what I know is that the only person I know who has the creativity, the imagination, and the creativity, and has actually been doing the fight, putting on the fight, and he's not even an attorney. And the one who's running for mayor of North Charleston is, John Singletary. That's the reason why I support him, is because from the conversation, and I met a lot of people here in this, in the city. He was the only one in real time putting up the fight and doing whatever he can to try to, get people on one accord by bringing them the data, the information, which you so love. He was the only one brought this information into the lexicon that people are speaking today. Now we have, in North Charleston, we have all these. We got like 10 candidates or 8 or 10 candidates running, parroting the information he brought forth. And these are black candidates too. Not all 8. I mean, all 8 or 10 or 10.
So what's his tangibles for black people in this area?
His tangible, he's the only one who's brought forth wrote a 70, because the thing of it is, you can get a politician and say anything, but to put something on paper, he crafted a 72-page plan of what he wants to do on day one. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, a lot of people put something on their website.
Wait, guys. I looked at his website and I agree. The how he broke down what's happening in North Charleston, I think is brilliant. I do. Now I have some other issues with it that I won't go into because that's not what the show is about. I'm just answering your question about why is there anyone, any attorneys or anyone pushing for reparations or stuff like that. And I didn't mean to cut you, but I'm talking about everyone I met, and I met a lot of individuals. I met the activists on the street, through the politicians, all the and like I said, a lot of them talk a good game, but they don't do it. They don't, they don't have any strategy. They don't have any plan. And most of them play from an old playbook, they still use the whole good old boy system, that the only way you're going to get anything done is unless you have a white cosigner or white, person to or you understand, we black folks focus on tent building. We focus on, we feel like we have to qualify our movement with other people, or someone from another race to validate it, which speaks to our own self-worth issues that we're dealing with. And go ahead.
Sorry, I wanted to ask, with him or anybody else that is in that same mind, what are we asking when we say they have a plan already? They already written in a solution where X billion trillion dollars is going to be given such and such a, or are you saying these people are open to us coming to have the conversation of which of the two are you saying? Is the money already?
We're talking about my conversation. And my conversations with him, like I said, it was bringing in he did an audit. He looked at the budget of where the money is being spent. Most of our tax-paying city money goes to contracts. We got over $100 million to spend. And even though African Americans in North Charleston make up 40, more than half of the population, we're the majority. We only get less than $2 million, not $2 million, 2% of those contracts. And that's what he brought forth to these people. He was like, listen, there's supposed to be at least a couple of million black millionaires here. but they're not, because they play keep away. You follow me? And we're talking about resources. We're talking about really changing the narrative and taking hold of our community. That you can't do that without any funds or any income,
real quick,
or resources. And that's what he brought forth back in 2019.
Yeah, real quick.
And then the sad thing about it is it's hard to change the mind of a lot of Black folks, because they don't see, they can't, they can't.
Real quick.
Until. Oh, God.
I just want to read off on his website real quick. It says, because he has the bullet points. It says, "Where are we? North Charleston. One of the nation's highest homicide rates above Chicago, Memphis, and Atlanta. State's third largest city and one of the state's largest economics. United States' largest African American populated city. North Charleston is 77 square miles, primarily due to annexation growth. 115,000, or is that 115 million? I think it's 115 million. 115 million budget for 2016 through 2017. 74 million payroll costs, only about 10 million for the 62% of African Americans and other minorities. 67 million in contract awards, only about 2 million for African Americans and other minorities. 34 million for police department budget, only 18% goes to African Americans and other minority workers. A recent public safety and justice article by Mike Masiak cited North Charleston as one of the nation's worst cities for minority representation on the police force. And I think another part on here, he was saying something about how North Charleston is now number one for the most gentrified city in the country, or something like that. I don't think it was on this page, but I read it on one of his other pages. I think this is the right direction to go, is to make the thing clear. The problem is now, I haven't seen any of his other stuff, but the marketing just isn't there. But I hear what I think. I think that we have to find a way to educate people about the reality and about the facts without getting so what's the term I'm looking for, to where it's so formal, it's so, here's the data, black and white. We need to be able to reach them in another way.
And that's the thing, because like I said, like any movement, from the Nation of Islam to from Marcus Garvey, he is, you have to raise the funds from the people. And if you're running for politics, when you were saying marketing, it's hard to do a lot of marketing when it's hard to get funds, because it's hard to get people to see the value of Black pain over white discomfort. And the thing of it is that he scared off in his first election. He scared off a lot of Black folks because he was speaking too pro-Black. The same thing that happened to Malcolm. Malcolm was speaking too pro-Black, and it turned off a lot of Black folks who were afraid of that. But unfortunately, we're in a climate, especially in the South, is where they don't want to rock the boat. Speaking to what you're asking, why isn't there any Black attorneys going out there trying to push for reparations, or try to take this to the courts? I mean, this be the perfect place. They just built a $100 million $80 million museum. This being the, for lack of a better term, our Ellis Island. This would be the perfect place to push for. I mean, Special Field 15 is here in South Carolina. It started here. The 40 acres and a mule started in South Carolina. So of course, this would be the perfect place to start for reparations, to push for reparations. But you got to understand, where the climate. You got to understand the climate that you're in. And if you're trying to change and that's what I was saying before, you got to change the will of the people. Everything is about politics. Everything's about the politics. So you got to be aware of the climate. You can just speak all you want to speak until your face is blue about what you want to do and stuff like that. But if your words are falling on deaf ears and a lot of people are not wanting to hear that, you're just stuck. you know, and that's where we're at right now. It's just that there's an invisible hand, and what I'm talking about, invisible hand, I'm talking about the people who have resources and means who are controlling a lot of stuff. They don't have to physically be there. Their resources are controlling the situation. That right now, I don't know if you pay attention to what, because I'm trying to speak to what the topic that we're speaking of in real time of what's going on in the city that we live in. Right now, in the Charleston County School Board, the moms for liberty are pushing, and they're literally, organizing and organizing to put for candidates to pass legislation to keep Black African American history out of schools. I don't know if you've been aware. This has been crazy. I mean, the past week it's been crazy. And then,
But going back to what someone like Mr. Unseen would say, what are Black people going to do about it?
What about that means me and you. I mean, like I said, we have to bring attention to this. We have to bring attention to it. I try to do as much as I can to be present and, to create platforms like the Black Collective and stuff like that. But this is stuff that is coming out of, no one's paying me for this. This is the stuff that I'm trying to carve out of, in my free time to try to do whatever I can. I ask people like, I want people like you and me and Mr. Unseen say, to try to bring attention to this stuff so we can actually create, an organization or push, find an attorney, or to create the climate that an attorney you feel comfortable enough to want to tackle that kind of thing.
Two things. Again, when I say, okay, what are Black people going to do about it? I don't mean like, okay, we got to go fight these Daughters of Liberty people to
Moms for Liberty.
Yeah, Moms of Liberty people to change what's going on in the schools that they control. And it goes back to what we were talking about before. My problem when it comes to education and Black people is we really think that putting our children in their schools is not going to result in deleterious have deleterious results. I mean, look, if a white person says, "Hey, I don't want my children learning this in school," it seems to me the smart thing for Black people to do is, okay, well, I'm going to teach my children at home about these things. That's probably what they need to learn about it anyway.
What they can, yeah, of course, when they can. I mean, you talk about just teaching Black history, which yes. Hopefully they'll do. But
they say we consume an extra hour of media more than any other group on the earth. Why don't we put Black education every day, Monday through Sunday? Bam, there it is.
Well,
all kind of resources on YouTube and everything. You don't even have to sit there down like, hey, look, for this couple hours out of the day, your little ass is gonna sit here. You're gonna watch this hidden colors documentary or hidden whatever Tariq's thing is called, hidden history. Is that what it's called? What's it called?
Hidden.
We made the kids cry.
And that's just
watching ancient Egypt stuff. And they pouted everything. We forced them.
And that's just an example. I'm not saying that it has to be that. It's just an example. What the point I'm trying to make is that if the fight is about getting white people to acquiesce to something that you can do for yourself, I have a problem with that. Now, if it's a fight to get resources from the society that we earn and that's owed to us, that's different. We should try to make them acquiesce to that. But if you're waiting around, not you personally, Mr. Avidia, but in general, if Black people are waiting around for white people to do right by their children, that is a fucking fool's errand. That's one of my greatest critiques of the civil rights movement. It was the dumbest thing in the world to do was to try to integrate our children into their schools and to close down our freaking schools. It was just so stupid. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, you could say the same thing about trying to get justice. You're watching the same person that plays the teachers married to the same person that put on the black robe and say who goes to jail and who doesn't,
the different
or what court case goes through.
the difference is that just whether you like this country or not, this is a country of laws, right? And we've had success in the legal arena before. We can have success again.
Outside of the Cold War, give me some success.
I mean, we've already been over this. I mean, you literally got one of our biggest rivals challenge us in almost every way imaginable. And one of the things China and Russia uses is look at how they treat black people. We could still use that to our advantage.
What's the history of that working outside of the Cold War? Give me a number.
I don't have any history of it working outside the Cold War, but we know it worked during the Cold War. I think it can happen.
Listen, but our fight is unique. It's a unique fight, dude. I mean, we can't go by laws because because segregation and slavery was a law. We have a unique fight. We have. Like I said, that is the reason why, and a lot of people lean on that. A lot of our white counterparts lean on that, saying, "Hey, it was legal. So why would you get reparation for something that was legal?" It was a strange argument I had with a fellow. I was like, "What? That doesn't make any sense." So I had to bring it to his attention. So let me understand this. So, and a lot of people feel that I had to make sense. I'm like, if I stole your car, how long do I have to keep it before it belongs to me? And he said, well, it would not belong to you. I said, well, let's say, I kept it, and you died, and I took that car and I passed it on to my son and became an antique. Does it still belong to me? You'd be like, no. The only way it can belong to me is either you forget about it or you forgive. And that's what this is the unique fight that we're fighting right now. And that's the thing that they're pushing for. That's the reason why they didn't want to take the histories out, take our history out of the history books.
Yeah, but it's
because they want to.
But again, black consciousness was dying before this push.
No. I wouldn't say it is dying. I think they're more so. I mean, they're more so.
Evolving.
I wouldn't say. I mean, I wouldn't say it's dying. I think a lot of people became disillusioned during the Black Panthers and seeing Malcolm and Martin being shot and killed, and Medgar Evers, and Hampton, seeing these people being shot down, they became disillusioned, and then they became distracted through the drug wars, and now we're in this situation with video games.
Whatever the cause is, it's dying. Just go talk to almost any Gen Z black person, and God forbid Gen Alpha black person, like young black person. I mean, you can see it. It's not there. It's not there. You know what I'm saying? So whatever the cause was, or whatever led to it, it's dying. And like I'm saying, I think I started dying long before the dominant society started pushing, hey, we don't want to teach this type of stuff.
When do you believe it started dying?
I personally think it started dying probably when Martin Luther King died, when he was assassinated, and then in the 70s. And shout out to Bobby Wright when he said, hey, look, everyone talks about the 60s, but no one talks about the 70s. Why? Because in the 70s, white people countered any gain that black people got in the 60s, white people properly countered in the 70s. It died when we integrated our children into the public school system. It died when we closed down a lot of black schools. It died when they fired a lot of black teachers. It died when the primary teacher in the society became a white female. If they thought that they were going to do right by black children at large, they were out of their fucking minds. I mean, they were truly delusional. So I guess what I'm saying is the decline started with the death of Martin Luther King, in my opinion, and the white countering to black civil rights in the 70s, and it's just gotten progressively worse.
that's the point I was making just a moment ago, is that we have a unique issue where we want to play by the rules, but the rules don't, they find ways to obfuscate and, change the rules.
We got to do both. We got to do both. We got to have a public face.
Exactly.
We got to have a public face. And this is why I want to push back on Mr. Unseen a little bit, because it seems like every time we bring up a point about something we need to do in a particular area, you say, well, this ain't going to work. I'm like, look, man, I'm not, when I say, why do we think that these people are going to educate our children in the right way, at least when it comes to history and stuff like that, I'm not saying that we should just totally not be involved in the education system. Yeah, send your kids to school. Like Bobby Wright said, get the skills, learn the skills. That's the only thing you need to learn from white people is the skills, technical skills. Anything when it comes to culture, anything when it comes to history, you need to be teaching that shit in that home. That's where the education really matters when it comes to history and culture, in religion or whatever else you want to bring up. But if you leave it up to white people, you're going to get what we have.
Of course,
disarray, chaos. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, what would their kids look like if we educated them?
From what I could tell, black people at large seem to be a very
No, if we was a dominant educating factor of their people.
Okay, like if the roles were reversed.
I mean, throughout history we have been, but I think we would have a more wholesome society, a more thriving and inclusive society.
Well, no, it looked like the hood if you put the people in charge
today.
In this
country,
that's why we're individuals.
No.
Yeah.
Please do not be believing what you see on social media, because a lot of those people are not controlling anything. The Sukhanas or whoever, the Ray and Pookie, they don't control anything.
Even if the guy at the nuclear power plant knows what he's doing.
Exactly. Even if they were even if what you're talking about, Mr. Vidya, are the extremes, and I don't think most black people fall into that extreme of the Sukhanas and the Ratchets and the Pookies and Ray types.
No, exactly.
I will say this though. On average, when you look at black people, because we don't have a value of education, and we have studies that show that black women in general, I'm not gonna get too much into this, retard black boys.
No, I'm not gonna have.
No. Let me say. I'll say this one last thing here. And Tariq Nasheed, I wish I could find a video, because I should have cut it as soon as he said it. I wish I could find a video when he said it. But he said, he was like, look, he did a thought experiment. He was like, look, if all white people in this country died tomorrow, they just dropped dead, right?
Yeah.
Who would run the nuclear power plants? Who would do all the engineering? Who would do all those things that it takes a managerial class of people to maintain, and an educated technical class of people to create and control? I'm sorry, that's severely lacking in the black community.
First of all, I agree. We need STEM education in the schools. I agree with you on that. But nuclear power. We really, I mean, the reason why we're needing it now is we became dependent on it because of that. But my point being,
you're talking about a group of people that can put themselves together and organize themselves, and a group of people that are struggling to do.
Who's
the leader of black people in America right now? Who's our leader?
Leader in Black America?
What person in Black America says you don't go tomorrow, don't go work? Who are you going to listen to?
That's the whole point. We don't have a leader because we got black people taking, like in this call, the three of us right now, I consider myself a spiritual religious person of Islam, and we got an atheist. We got you. I don't know your religious denomination and stuff like that. So we have three different value systems. I mean, we have different ideologies. So of course we don't have a black leader. It's because we don't drink from the same well.
We have a common interest, right?
You would think that would be enough, but it's not. That's the reason why a lot of black people that's the reason why it's dying.
Because
from
we
what
don't have a common interest.
because it's dying and we becoming distracted is because of that common interest. Because a lot of people have other things that they want to do, or they're too busy saying, well, it's really not that bad. I can order a pizza.
To some extent,
I can watch Netflix.
It's not that bad.
Wait. To some extent, To some extent, I agree.
They're in the gilded cage. They're happy. They're taking the blue pill.
I agree.
Or the red pill.
I agree with you there, Mr. Vidia, but I think the larger point Mr. Unseen was trying to make is, regardless of the conditions that made it so that we the way we are, the fact of the matter is that we are no more moral than any other people. And what's his name? Bobby Wright said the same thing. He was like,
A.J. Brown said the same thing.
He was like, we aren't some exceptional people. We're people. We're
normal people.
We're human beings. And what Mr. Unseen is saying is, because of the conditions that we find ourselves in that has led to that was the word I was looking for earlier, pathologies. If all white people died tomorrow, and the black people today, not 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, today, in this country specifically, were to get the reins of power, yes, it may very well and create a more a ghetto country. Now, maybe enough warring and fighting will rise again.
No,
Wait. Let me finish what I'm saying. Let me finish what I'm saying. That enough warring that and the stuff would eventually lead to something that would be comparable to what we have today. But even Fred Hampton said this. Listen. Well, I don't know if we would find a video real quickly. You guys talk. I'm gonna try to see if I can find a video.
Listen, it's just like what's his name? What's the author's name? Who said yeah. Listen, black people. What you're saying is that black people have from what you're telling me, what you're asking me is that if white people disappeared, this whole place would be a ghetto. No, it wouldn't be a ghetto. The reason why I'm saying that is because you got to understand the whole call. The nigger was created. That's a creation. You create a nigger. A nigger just means it's just an ignorant person, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but if you create someone, not give them the resources, they'll give them a true education. Then that's something. Then I agree with you on that. But that's
now it's will for ignorance, though. Now if you know something's wrong, the first thing you're supposed to do is get on your and ask it.
No, that's a different conversation. Now we're talking about you're talking about the intent. Then now, if they intentfully want to be willfully ignorant, why would they be willfully ignorant? Do they feel like apathy set in? Where they what's the point?
Apathy,
why care? Because it's not going to change anything. That's the reason why a lot of people, that's the same argument a lot of people have when you approach them and say, hey, you need to vote. They're like, what's the point? Nothing's going to change.
Let me put it to you better, man. If a person has to go through their whole life and they understand they're in this dangerous environment, and they're used to not having to team up with other people to get through, work with people temporary amounts of times, then when you go to them and say, well, get on this plan, they already got a plan when you meet them. When we met you, you had a plan. When you met us, we had a plan. All of us have to have a plan as an individual to make it. And now you're asking somebody to give up some of their bandwidth for something that might not work.
Let's
you haven't yet.
I agree
Giving
with you 100%.
Anybody a dollar amount why reparations would be a good idea.
I agree with you 100%.
As an individual.
I agree. I agree. Quid pro quo type of idea, thinking. I agree, because when I started the Black Collective, I named it for a reason. It's a Black Collective, understanding that it's different ideologies, different ways of thinking, different strategies, different plans, that we all come together. That under the ideology that, hey, we're Black and we still have the same experience. But I'm starting
That's
to
not good
learn
enough.
that right now that a lot of black people have different experiences. When they think of black, they don't think of the same way as me.
No, we all need money, man. We all need money, and we all need resources. And if you're not
I
talking,
agree.
and if somebody comes to me and they're saying stuff, and don't get me wrong, I'm conscious. But if somebody was to come to me in my normal everyday operation and they're talking jive, and I'm like, well, how much money is it, man? Hurry up! How long are you gonna tell me I'm suffering already? Get okay, what I need to do? Okay, you gonna go out to vote? Well, how much money you gonna give me? No one can answer what am I gonna get and when am I gonna get it? When you tell people that when you put that in your presentation, people will get off their ass. But as long as we just chop it,
no,
they will. That's what your job tell you. You come in here and you get paid.
No, they don't. Some do, but the majority, the mass majority.
Money.
All right, guys, because we're going off into the weeds. I think the only point Mr. Unseen was trying to make was that when you have a people who have been historically oppressed and are destitute, they're not going to make good leaders. I mean, it's just at large, you're not going to make good leaders. They're not going to make good managers. And
of course, you keep people at a level of a beast, they're going to act like a beast. I agree with you. You get no argument with me.
That's the only point.
But I see it in real time. I see it in, dude. I'm in the greatest event, the greatest example I can give you to the point you're trying to make is that you're saying that if you bring the information to the people, they'll eat it up, and they don't. A lot of people, if you, I'm having that argument. Hello?
Yeah, we hear you.
We got you.
Oh, we're having the argument with the like I said, with this campaign. We bring forth the information. We brought it back in 2019. Like, this is what's going on. This is the money. And then if you vote for this guy for this seat, he'll be able to bring this money to this community, to these people. He's literally saying, I'm going to be able to. Did he give a dollar amount
on record?
Yes. That 72 page. Like I said, he wrote a whole 72 page.
Does it say black people or say people
black
of color?
People.
Anywhere in that document,
people.
If I scan it right now, does it say people of color?
Again, he says black people. That's the reason why I'm saying when he kept saying black, and then they kept on saying, well, he's reverse racist. He's a reverse racist. He's a racist because all he's talking about is black people. And that was the argument for that they kept throwing against him to try to discredit him, and it turned off a lot of black folks because a lot of black people were like, well, because they felt like black pain is not important than white discomfort, because they didn't want to upset their white friends.
Avi, I understand, and I actually agree with you on that. I think some marketing choices probably could help him if he had a little bit of cash, but
well, if you want to do that, put his flyer on your page.
I will. I shared him. I think I shared him on a couple of things. I think I shared him on the Black Ops marketing.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to reiterate, and Mr. Unseen, I think that was your original point. We're just going off into the weeds. Is that when you look at people who haven't been trained to be managers or to manage things, to be engineers, anything like that. If everyone who's doing that work just suddenly dies tomorrow, no, you're probably gonna get worse results. That's not to say that black people are inherently inferior. That's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that we have to address the pathologies that create some of those inadequacies. Because they're there. We can't pretend that we're the most honorable, strongest, and most virtuous people ever. If that was the case, we'd never be fucking over here in the United States, in North America. We wouldn't be over here. There's goddamn fucking black people selling other black people into slavery. If we were so goddamn honorable, that shit would have never happened. So this idea, and that's all that what he was trying to say. And look, I'm not the only one who's saying it. Listen to Fred Hampton. He says the same thing. You guys tell me if you can hear this.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Can you hear this video? Hold on.
Why not?
Here, can y'all hear that? Can y'all hear that?
Like the Breast for Children program and
I can barely hear it.
Right on, brothers?
We believe they're good things. as a focal point to organize their mothers and fathers.
Peace. There's no educational program here?
That's come out of the socialization thing. You know, you set that up, but I mean, we can't put everything on one piece of paper.
What about this bank?
Credit union?
Credit union.
Credit union, my brother.
Is a bank.
Are you hip to credit unions? It is a bank.
Yeah, you go and borrow money?
Yeah, it's a bank. It's a bank. Owned by the people, run for the people, and by the people.
What will money be given out to people for?
Well, the people would decide that. You want to buy, whatever, the people in the community decide. You need some living room furniture, maybe? You need a car, maybe?
See, the thing is with me, you dig, I need to know some more about it. I wish you had some more literature about the educational thing here. Because, you dig, as far as we're concerned in the struggle, the way we look at struggle is that this depends on the educational thing, you dig? Because
this depends on the education. Well, the whole thing.
No, but in the end, this does. You can form this with no education. You can form this.
No, not the way we're talking about forming it. Right. We're talking about forming it right. It's not on the paper. We didn't write it on the paper.
Form it right with no education.
No.
Let me give you an example. Jomo Kenyatta formed the excellent revolution with no education. And on the end thing, Jomo told the motherfucker, said, well, you've been educated hate the enemy, but I'm your brother. I'll help you lead the revolution. Now I'm going to oppress you. Another example, Papa Doc in Haiti. Papa Doc in Haiti hated everything white. Man, you couldn't put this white paper in front of Papa Doc's face. But he moved all the white people out and he took over and be oppressed. He did, because of no education. And the people that have been educated, they just said that we don't hate the motherfucker white people, we hate the oppressor, whether he be white, black, brown, or yellow. So we got to know the educational program to find out what is going to be in the finale. A lot of people, Jomo Kenyatta is called never a revolutionary, but an ex-revolutionary. So is Papa Doc. They brought on a successful revolution. That thing in the Maafa was a bitch. Bantu freedom fighters, all that kind of action. But what we're saying is the end. That you don't judge Castro now. You can't do it. Nobody in this room could judge whether Castro's going to be a revolutionary or not. You know what I mean? We're talking about things, you know what I mean, with China, the People's Republic, and even at the stage they're in now, talking about even going on further into a communistic state. That's what we're talking about. Those are revolutionary. So we got to understand here the educational program that you have to be able to figure out whether it will go on the right lines where the people will end up in a situation where they can be able to really control themselves. You understand what I'm saying? With no education, the people take this local foundation and start stealing money because they won't be really educated to why it's a people's thing anyway. You understand what I'm saying? With no education, you have neo-colonialism instead of colonialism like you got in Africa now, like you got in Haiti. So what we're talking about is there has to be educational program. That's very important. As a matter of fact, it's so important for us that a person has to go through 6 weeks of our political education before he can consider himself a member of the party, able to even run down ideology for the party. Why? Because if they don't have an education, then they're nowhere. You dig what I'm saying? They're nowhere because they don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. You might get people caught up in the emotionalist movement. You understand me? You might get them caught up in because they're poor and they want something. And then if they're not educated, they want more. And before you know it, they'll be capitalists. And before you know it, we have Negro imperialists.
Now, and I think it's important to highlight Fred Hampton saying that. One, because it dispels this, what I call the magical Negro. Like black people, because we've been oppressed and because of our oppression, we've had to take on more passive ways of fighting back, like non-resistance type of things like that. So we think that we're more moral. We're not more moral. We're not inherently more moral than anybody else. And neither is anybody else. A good example of this actually would be China. Older Chinese people who came from that famine that they had when what's his name, Mao Zedong was in charge. They went through a long period of almost starving. Some of them did starve. So when China started getting better, started getting more economic freedom and more economic prowess, now they have, I can't remember the name of it, but now they have this tradition in China, man, like if you put out some food or something like that, man, everyone, you should see the kids and the older people, they just grab it. They just grab as much as they can. Why? Because they're used to an environment of scarcity. And it's the same thing would happen with black people if all white people just died tomorrow. Because we're so used to an environment of scarcity, it will override any kind of managerial mindset.
I would disagree with you on that. No. That I mean, what you're saying doesn't. But If that was the case, then we would be causing havoc all over the world, black folks, from scarcity. We don't do that. We don't create ghettos.
Wait. What do you mean?
We have ghettos.
What do you mean?
The reason why
Hold on. Wait. Please explain what you mean.
Let me make this point. The reason why Haiti is in the state that it's in is because the other countries deprived.
Before you can move on, I don't understand what you meant. You gotta please explain what you meant. Because you said that we would go on and cause a whole bunch of. I don't get what you meant by that.
The connection being is that because you're saying because they were built, they were conditioned to coming from a place of scarcity, they will make a ghetto of everything around them.
Yeah.
All right. That's the same argument. What's his name? It'll come to me, but made when it came to Europeans coming out of Europe because they came from a place of scarcity and we had abundance. That's the reason why they went and started conquering everywhere because they were starving. And they literally made it, it's all about resources. That's the reason why they left Europe because they didn't have the resources we had. That's the reason why you can't think of an African civilization going conquering another civilization based off of that. No, it's always in response of, but it's never the perpetrator of.
Yeah.
So the argument doesn't apply to us. That applies to Europeans.
I think the problem with your analysis is that even if you wanted to use that analysis, that's based on environment, not on something that's inherent in the person. That's the point I'm trying to make. Look. We can't sit here and compare.
I'm not saying that someone's built to be barbaric. I don't believe that. I believe that it's conditions. I'm talking about the environment that you're in. That's the point I'm making. I agree with you on that. I'm not saying.
But that's the only point that we were making was that, okay, look, if you deprive enough people and you put them in certain conditions where they develop all these pathologies, if you would have just if those people who created it would just suddenly go away, the pathologies wouldn't go away, they'd still be there. That's the point we're trying to make.
Listen, the reason why I say it's different for us is because we've never, we would find a way to listen. A lot of us,
it sounds like you're arguing the opposite.
Who you just played, Fred Hampton. All right. I mean, just like him, he didn't come from an Ivy League school. He wasn't that educated. I mean, and to the point, he was street educated.
No, Bobby Wright.
Bobby Wright.
No, that's not true. Bobby Wright was one of the teachers of Fred Hampton. Bobby Wright was very well educated.
Listen. But he didn't get his education from the Ivy League school. If you don't believe me, if you don't believe me, I can get you. I'll get you on the phone.
But he did the discipline of sitting down and listening to someone.
Yeah, we're not arguing that black people need to go to Ivy League schools. One of the main arguments I was making was, look, you need to value education in your home. If you're sitting your children down in front of a tablet, a screen, or a TV for hours a day, and not not reading to them, I don't want to get into black women, and not reading to them. You know what I'm saying? You're not valuing education. You're not making that a value system inside the culture that you're building inside your home. So
I understand that.
I'm not saying that but the larger point I'm trying to make though is I'm not saying that every black person has to go to an Ivy League school. One of the things I've always said is, look, if we wanted to cure some of the pathologies that we have in our community, we need to militarize. Why?
Listen.
Because this is my last point. I'll let you go. Because boot camp is one of the few things that you can get people to change quickly, and we need to change quickly. We need boot camp, especially for the youth. Boot camp for all black youth. That's how black schools need to be. Boot camp.
Well, I agree. We don't have a tradition. I mean, we don't have any tradition, or we have not created anything to help. Something that allows a young man to be, a young boy to become a man. Some kind of trial that make them feel, we lost that in our culture. I agree with you on that. My point being is, like I mentioned earlier, our problem is unique. Listen, unfortunately, we don't prize education to as the end all be all is because a lot of the people that we have who's made it, a lot of our leaders didn't have that type of education. I mean, we have some exceptions, but a lot of our heroes who really made a lot of strides weren't the ones who had the education that you would think it would get us through. So we don't prize that. We it's by any means necessary for the most part. And a lot of us, we understand.
I have to disagree. I have to disagree. I don't think that it started with that. I think it started with more macro decisions being made in this country. Go study the Mohonk Conference. They made a deliberate choice. This is why black women are more educated than black men in this country. They made a deliberate choice, policy choices, to say, hey, look, black men will go to the.
Who made the choices?
It's a Mohawk conference. It's a group of white people that got together and say, here's what we're going to do for the Negroes after slavery or whatever. But I guess the larger point I'm trying to make, I guess I should ask you, are you arguing the opposite, that black people are somehow inherently more moral or more benign or whatever? Because I'm sorry, I just don't see that. I don't see it.
I believe no. I believe, because your argument is, you say, I don't believe someone's. Yeah, okay. I mean, this is me. I just think I believe our history was, like you probably heard before, our history was interrupted. Meaning this is an interruption of what we could have become if things were done fairly and above board. So right now we're going through, as ADOS, FBA people, we've gone through, slavery, segregation, been through through some atrocities, and we're coming out of that. So, we were doing fine, and then we went through this atrocity, and then hopefully we can come back to our rightful glory. Right now, I understand you think that the point I'm making is that don't get twisted or believing that what you see of these the Pookie and Ray Ray and all of, because that is not the mass majority of black folks.
That's the same. We don't have to go to those extremes. I mean,
I'm saying the majority of black folks. I believe the majority of black folks. A majority of black folks don't have the information, but are some really good people. Most of the basis of black folks, FBA, ADOS people, are religious people, and they come from that playbook. They come from Christian Southern Baptists for the most part, people who have that. That's where their roots are, for the most part. And there's some Muslim, it's a religious base, because we're spiritual people. I mean, not all of us. Hopefully, you'll come back around.
Listen to this.
But they have to They have to get. Well, I'll say this last part, and I'm done. Right. I'll put the mic down. But the thing of it is that you got to pull it from some. They're getting their information from somewhere, and most of them are from a religious doctrine or a religious book.
Well, I'll say this: the Christian religion has failed black people. It's utterly failed us. It's not working. The black church is dead. It died a long time ago. It's dead.
And they don't do that. We already talked. They don't do the shit that the book said do anyway.
Yeah, we don't go destroy our enemies. We're always asking for forgiveness and turning the goddamn other cheek and all that shit. But anyway,
I was just talking about the 10 Commandments.
Oh, you mean like actually following certain guidelines?
Yeah, don't kill, don't do whatever. Well, fuck that book. Jesus make it all right. That's the rule. Black people, and people in general have made what they want this world to appear as, and they're gonna sit there and do whatever they want
until they get either a drastic
change.
Now, say that again. Drastic what?
Change. You have to introduce something into their environment. But what I wanted to point out is people that want to lead other black people need to understand, when you see these videos, Max promise those protection and restaurants and nice stuff. They promise them
unity. You keep cutting out. Man. You keep cutting out. I don't know what it is, man. You keep cutting out.
we promise when people today try to get black people together, we don't promise them anything because reparations, they haven't shown them what that looks like. Is it Wakanda? You know,
I
or
totally
something.
agree.
Until you include that, and then you tell them when they're going to get it. It's a
agree.
pipe dream. So people
I
don't.
agree.
They give you half. So if
They're
you're talking to
disillusioned.
them,
I agree. That's what I said earlier.
no, we're disillusioned because we have not
No.
thoroughly set out and told people what you're gonna. You haven't solidly gotten them a promise together that if they listen to your leadership, or what's going to happen to them. We're giving them pipe dreams.
Yeah, I think.
No,
wait,
no. I disagree with you.
Responsibility is
But
ours.
unfortunately, with black folks, you got to show proof of concept. You can't just tell them something and give them information and give them data or anything. You got to put it in practice to sell them.
We're going to perish. We're going to perish.
That's what I would disagree with you. That's the only thing. I agree with you to that point. You just have to show proof of concept with black folks.
Then we're going to
they don't lip service don't do it for them.
Then we're going to
No, I'm sure. No, you gotta be able to do it for them, and then you might get started. You might have to give.
Man, you're cutting out. You little what?
You might have to give them a little bit to get started. Like if you say you're going to help a black business and you're going to fight with a politician, you might have to hit them off with $50 out your pocket to help them get started yourself. But as long as you come empty-handed saying, come and stop and give me your time, you're wasting their time and money because you're telling them
I totally agree with you.
You know, and he said that in his videos. Brown says you meet people in where they are on their program, and then you offer something that might. But what we're asking people to do, right, is to come. You shouldn't vote for this party, even though I believe in my heart this party is working, and we're saying you shouldn't vote like that.
Listen,
and they're saying, well, what do I get? What can you quantify me that I'm going to get? Because I think if I vote in this way, it's protecting me from getting pulled out of my house by racists. Right? If I don't vote this way, every 4 years, what protection are you offering me?
And this is why I say, if black people at large continue like that, then just go ahead and accept that we're going to perish. If we cannot take information and then make predictions for the future and then act on that information and predictions, then we're done. If you're going to wait until it's just so bad, you know what I'm saying, before you act, it's going to be too late. Look,
I agree.
Look, how many people have to read the article and make videos and stories about it? This is where I think John Singletary could probably use some help with maybe some of his campaign videos. Put the scary music in there. Find the article. Look, your ass ain't gonna have no money by 2053. Over 50% of the homeless population in the entire United States right now are African Americans. It's higher in places like California. How much fucking scary tactics can you use? And this is why I have to agree with Mr. Unseen. If it's staring you in the goddamn face and you still want to keep doing the same old thing you're doing, then you're gonna fucking perish.
Listen,
this is one of the reasons why I created this show, so that young black men in particular can understand the realities. So there's
nothing we can do about it.
And so they can make better decisions. So they can make better decisions. If they want to get the hell out of this country, get the hell out of this country. If you want to stay and fight, you need to understand.
No, I don't agree with you on that. I don't agree with.
Let me finish what saying. Whether you agree or not, it's not going to stop people from doing it. What the point I'm trying to make is they need options, and one of the options is to leave. That's always been an option. Is to get the hell out of here. It has always been an option. All right, okay. You say what you want.
No. I just think the thing of it is, listen, I agree with Mr. Unseen. I agree you got to meet the people where they are. That you made me think of the scene in Malcolm X when the guy approached Malcolm and gave him that nutmeg. And he said, "Oh, this is good." He said, "That's the last one I'm gonna get. That's the only one I'm giving you because you wouldn't been able to hear me, if you didn't have it, if I didn't fix that." But I agree with you on that. My only, like I said, the only solution I see is not running to some other place. We do have options. And I do agree with what you're saying, that hey, it's going to be too late if you wait until someone's showing proof of concept. If someone's giving you the information, you better take it. Better take heed, and hopefully you'll change your behavior accordingly. I agree with you, but I'm dealing with this in real time. I'm interacting with people every day. And I'm telling you, the mass majority of Black folks are disillusioned, and they like I said, they're in a better built mousetrap. They don't understand what they're in because they don't when they turn the heat up on the frog in lukewarm water, and they don't understand they're in boiling water. And hopefully that we'll come up with better marketing, like you said, to try to wake people up. I'm trying to do whatever I can. I have conversations.
I hear you. All I'm saying is your belief and your hope for what Black people want to be, like Mr. Uncle Unseen was saying. We got a timetable here, man. And we don't have a lot of time. I think in the next 20 to 30 years, it might be over. It might be over. I mean, technically it's over now, but
it's a strategies. It's a strategy.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying the strategies. We have different ideologies and different strategies. The biggest point, like right now that I'm learning through this whole manosphere, the He-Man Womanators Club. These people thinking like that strategy is the best strategy, and I'm thinking that's the worst strategy in the world. Separate,
that's not true. They don't think that's the best strategy for like saving Black people. What they're saying is there probably is no saving Black people, and that young Black men might have to realize that reality. Like, look, this thing we call the Black community might be dead, so you're gonna have to make some decisions about your life.
If they think it's dead, then they might as well shoot themselves in the head.
Yeah,
my point is,
I'm not being hyperbolic. I am not being hyperbolic. I'm being dead serious. If any Black person thinks that way, they might as well shoot themselves in the head.
No,
because just because you move to another place, that lets me know they don't understand geopolitical politics. You leave in one country, in one continent to go to another continent thinking that things are going to change, but it don't. Because you can see from the Palestinians.
I lived
I'm gonna let you
15 years abroad. For most of my adult life, I lived abroad. It
as a minority. You didn't control anything. We're talking about Black people being in control. I'm talking about, hey, if you just want to be,
we're not.
As a minority, whatever country you were in, you were the minority. You didn't control anything.
One at a time.
We're talking about control. We're talking about Black people controlling having supremacy of their environment. You're moving to another country where there's a majority Asian, a majority Middle Eastern, or a majority European. Doesn't make that doesn't change anything. You don't control anything.
I still don't think you get it, Mr. Villa. What people?
I get it. I get it.
No, I don't. I still don't
he doesn't get it.
No, you don't, because I think the more black pill side of the manosphere, what they're saying is, it's over. So whether you control things here or you control things abroad is not the point. The point is, are you going to get better outcomes for yourself as an individual? Not all Black people, as an individual. Will you get better outcomes abroad than you will here?
Yes.
That's what they're saying.
Yes.
That's what they're saying. Not that if a Black person moves over here, he's going to totally control everything. If anything,
the guy that we all know, Uni went to a place where there's all Black folks, and he got acres of land in Africa. So listen, yes, when we're in control, when the Black majority, yes, we have more. You're not going to do that. You're not going to be able to get that in China, Europe, or Australia, or some Vietnamese country. You're not going to get that.
But most Black men who
go to China and ask for some land.
But most Black men who go outside the country don't go to places like China. They go to places like Africa, and most probably go to like South America or the Caribbean.
Okay, yes.
So this idea that they're all going to like Asia.
We are the majority. We are the majority.
The point, though, Mr. Villa, is that that's one option young black men have. Is that if family isn't working for you here, if marriage isn't working for you here, if black politics isn't working for you here, if black business isn't working for you here, if black education isn't working for you here, get the hell out of here. Nothing's working in your favor. Leave.
And definitely don't shoot your self in the head because
No.
That's
suicide is not the answer.
That you don't think that, Mr. V, you don't think that's an option because you have this belief in black people, which is fine. Have your belief. And one of my caveats.
No, this is not a belief. It sounds like it kind of sounds like with when I hear a black woman say, "I can't even find her," all the men I dated. I'm like, well, the common denominator is you. No, you're the one.
It's not the same.
The reason why you can find anyone.
Can I say something? Yeah, that's almost the point of what we're making.
Yeah.
The people that could put a community together, the people who are logical, the people who understand the situation going on are the main ones who leave.
Exactly.
The ones who can't get their act together are the ones that's being crushed the hardest. Are the same ones who don't listen to anybody who want to do their own thing. It doesn't have to be ratchet people. Dallas Cowboys is more fucking important than what you have to say. And until they can switch that, those people will stay. But for everyone else who knows better, and how long have we been telling? And I use this as an example. It's a stupid one, but it's one example of we tell you, hey, don't watch the game. Protest. Right? Do something in your own best interest. You choose. Vote for the mayor you brought up. As soon as somebody else comes, well, if you don't vote for this one, some racist gonna get you. Your man is gonna his steam. As soon as they pull the same trick out that they normally pull, because this group not listen to us enough to mature their logical minds to actually be able to make rational fucking decisions, unless they get beat over the head by life or not. Or you offer them something that normal life, and whatever plan they have is going to give them. You promise them $100,000 in 10 years ago. You got their attention. Better deliver. But you got their attention.
Also, I think.
But we promise nothing. Do this because it's called black people will be.
Mr. C, I just want to jump in real quick. Also, I think, Mr. V, we need to stop playing the equivocation game. Every pathology black women have doesn't mean that black men have the same pathology or to the same degree, and vice versa. You know what I'm saying?
No,
so this idea,
I agree. I'm not. That's not the point I'm making.
You kind of did make that point when you said that thing about well, if you have all this trouble with these women, then you're the common denominator. I don't think that's true. Not when it comes to black men. I just don't think it's true. I don't think.
Oh, it is true.
No,
it is true.
I don't.
No. It's true. Because I have a friend.
No, that is not true.
That's anecdotal.
That is true. That is true. That is so true.
Your friend is anecdotal.
The majority of that. No. Most of the dudes, most of the friends, the black male friends I had, at one time they dated outside their race because they said, hey, they don't find. Well, let me go back before I get there. Let me go back to what Mr. Unseen was making, the point he was making. I mean, the argument he was making is the same argument I hear about these guys who leave out of the community and say, hey, buy a house in the suburbs or somewhere else, saying, listen, man, these people, you can't change these people. I had to buy. That's the reason why I bought this house over here, because these people are ignorant and I can't do it. I'm like, all right, yeah, whatever, yeah, okay. But the point being is this:
you let those people babysit your children?
Listen.
Just no.
Listen. Let me finish my point, and I'll answer your question. I'll definitely answer your question.
Finish. Go ahead, man. That was me to me. I'm sorry.
You know what? When you put a knife in there, you let them put a knife in your neck. Okay. No, I don't want to. I'll answer the question. Even though it's a straw man argument, my point being is this, dude. I think that most people, most black people, don't understand everyone's trying to get power or get control of their environment. That's the whole chaos and control, chaos and order. argument, the whole heaven and hell principle. You know, if you have control of your environment and that's order in your environment, that's heaven. And the hell principle is chaos. And that
social media do that. Dallas Cowboys, for example. How does watching football everything? How's that getting power in your environment? What do name 5 things that black people do when they get power in their environment?
What do you mean? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Football?
No.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Give me 5 things that black people do on a normal in our culture that we do that empowers us, and our day job cannot be one.
Oh, the things that we do. One is I think that the way black people, when it comes, I don't know, black people, the way black people love on one another. I'm talking about love, and love comes with conditions. I don't believe in love, unconditional love, because there's no such thing, and it can't be love without conditions. Is better than anyone on this planet. That expresses in our music and our writings and our films and everything. I do agree
what's that woman's name? Something red, dirty red. What's that woman's name? You see the love in her, Cardi B. You see the love in that.
Mr. Video,
how about the WAP video?
Mr. V, you're truly blue pill. You're truly blue pill if you believe that. You're truly blue pill. I mean,
what do you mean?
If you really
I don't know the difference.
If you really, it means you're stuck in the matrix, man. If you really believe that we love each other more than anybody else on the planet, I mean, in this society,
No, I said we love each other better than anyone else on the planet.
I mean, either way. I mean, come on, that's blue. That's so blue pill, man. But yeah, go continue, man. Keep
okay. Number two, I believe that when properly educated, that it hinges on that. When we're properly educated, everything does come in alignment. We do come up with the best solutions, the best way to lead people in a better. We come up with better systems, which I do believe that education wise. Number two, what do you mean? Well, I'm just talking about societies. I'm just talking about society. Niger, the society in Niger was great. Ethiopia, even though, they've never been conquered or anything like that, but, Kemet, South Africa, which was great, with the Zulu, even though Zulu, Shaka Zulu was a bad man, but, number 3, I believe I don't know, man.
Real quick, a video about Niger. It says, hold on. It says, real quick, it says, elsewhere in Niger, slavery was practiced in a variety of different ways. In the Zarma-speaking regions in the west of Niger, slavery provided the crucial workforce in agriculture. It has been estimated that up to 75% of the population in these regions were slaves in 1904 and 1905. So there's your Niger.
But that was under European.
We love each other.
But this is under European, colonialism. I'm talking about outside. The question was put to me outside.
So do you think that slavery existed in Africa before Europeans came?
Yes, but not in the same way. Not like chattel slavery.
Damn way. They've proven it.
No, it's not the same way.
Yes, it was.
No.
We keep trying to make that.
It isn't.
We keep trying to make that caveat. And there's evidence that shows it.
It's not the same way.
There's evidence.
It's not the same way.
But let me ask you, do you think they had any volunteers to be slaves?
No.
You think did they have any volunteers to say, yo, well, make me a slave? I think that's a good job.
No.
And they was being fucked up back then. Too.
Listen. The only way that you can become a slave or something is something like if you and I were married, all right? Let's say you were married, okay? And I went out there and you and I got in a fight and I killed you, then I would have to take care of that family. That is in the way of what we would call slavery. Because you took away a piece of that family, which was benefiting that, those kids and the wife and whoever the rest of that family was. You created
what about when you sold that person?
Yeah, what?
What about when you sold that same person?
What do you mean
Now you got
sold that
slaves. You
person?
sold them. They sold slaves to each other.
Oh
We
my
beat this
God,
tribe.
man!
We sell
Listen,
the slaves.
we're talking
And
about
this is everywhere, man.
You're talking about a prisoner. So you're talking about a prisoner. So we if that's the case, then we can call people who went there, rape people, and we put in prisoners and put in prison. We call them slaves too. No.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
did
they are.
something, if you
Yes,
did
yes.
something,
Wait,
if you did something,
guys, wait.
if you war against, I'm not saying we were peaceful with one another all the time. No, I'm saying if we had a war in faction and that person killed some people, yeah, that person is going to be, but it's not in at the level of chattel slavery. Stop making that false comparison. Chattel slavery means that you are not human. You are a beast. You don't have any language. I just saw you. We were looked at as unhuman. We weren't looked at as human. Stop making that false. I'm not making some caveat. No, you making that false equivalent. That's two totally different things.
In the Constitution, one of the things that it said when it abolished slavery was that the only way you could enslave someone is if they became a prisoner. So yes. Yeah, it is still in there.
The 14th Amendment.
When it comes to chattel slavery in Africa, it existed. It wasn't like widespread or whatever, but it existed. I believe in North Africa and in Carthage, they had chattel slavery.
Yep, because they sold slaves to Muslims before they sold slaves to Europeans.
So this idea that
those are Arabs. I'm not talking about black folks, man.
We're talking about like before the Arab invasion or whatever. We're talking about, they might have been more lighter skinned black people, like how
they control Egypt.
They're still black people.
They control.
But the I think going back to what we were saying about
Muhammad could have had slaves.
But going back to what we were saying about black people being more honorable or more moral or whatever, or what you were saying, Ms. Avidia, about how we love each other better or something. What did you say? Because I want to.
Yeah, we do love each other better than everyone. I mean, listen.
Wait. No, that's all I needed. But explain this to me. I'm gonna read this out. It says,
Lord,
data crunched by Cal Matters from the Department of Education revealed that 75% failed to meet state reading standards. And they're talking about black boys. It says, in California's public schools, boys perform lower than girls in almost every subject. That much has been known for some time. But here's another troubling trend. Broken down by race, black boys struggle the most, especially in the areas of reading. Data crunched by Cal Matters from the Department of Education revealed that 75% failed to meet state reading standards, 17% below average for boys. So why is that?
Yeah.
And what can be done to close these gaps?
Because let
me finish saying. If our so-called community loved each other so much, that number would not be that high. Nowhere near that high.
Listen. We have a unique situation, man. Our black boys. Listen, I have three sons and I have a little girl. Okay, and I do not treat my little girl like I treat my sons. Okay. First and foremost, as a young man, you want to make sure that they're safe because they're going to be perceived as right now. My 15. Well, he's about. He just turned 16. He's starting to become a young man, so they're not going to see him as a cute young little boy. So that like my 3-year-old, I'm afraid of that. They're going to see him as a the older a black boy gets, they're seen as a threat. So I have to teach him and treat him differently than I treat my little girl. You're not going to treat them the same. Of course, yes. I was talking about the reading aspect. Yeah, of course you want to make sure that they read and stuff like that. I want to make sure my kids read. But there's other thing outside of reading. I want to make sure that they're safe. That's their life. I mean, without no life, he can't read. So I got to teach him other things, other life experiences, and give him other tools, so he will be able to keep himself and sustain the life that he was given.
But how does your anecdotal experience explain?
That's not anecdotal, man. What do you keep saying that? Everything's anecdotal.
No, I'm saying you're giving your personal.
That's like me telling a pilot. I'm saying, well, can you teach me how to fly a plane, and he tells she got going through a story, and I'm well, that's just anecdotal. Yes, of course, everything's anecdotal, man.
No.
I mean, what are you talking about?
What I'm saying is, I asked. What I'm saying is, I asked.
So you saying boys and girls are the same?
No. I asked you.
Should we treat boys and girls the same?
No, I asked you a specific question, and then you.
Yes.
And then you went on. About
I answered it.
No, you didn't. You went on about your anecdotal experience. What I was
you asking me about a stat about the reading of why boys are lower than any other demographic.
No, that's
and
not
I'm
what
telling
I was asking. Mr. Villa, that's not what I was asking you. I was asking you in the context of your point before, when you were like, well, we love each other better than anybody else. I'm like, well, if we loved each other better than anybody else, why is it that we don't love our boys enough to make sure that they can achieve educationally?
Why do
you gave me your anecdotal experience. The numbers say we don't.
But because the stats not taking in other. Let me answer your question because I don't think you see because you're focusing on stats and you don't understand there's other contributing factors to it. Dude, boys and girls are different. Boys and girls are going to be seen different. No. You don't see that. You know, because
you're preaching to the choir.
No. Because if they were on, let me finish my thought. You asked me to answer the question. I'm going to answer it for you because I want you to understand this because you keep on trying to put girls and boys the same thing. They're not the same thing. I didn't say that. No, wait. Hold on. Wait. Stop.
No,
that's what you're trying to say.
No, because you put it. No, I'm not. Because you put it. No, stop it.
Mr.
Villa, you're not being fair. I never said that. Mr. Villa, I never said that. I never said that. I never said boys and girls were the same. Wait, I never said that. I never said that. I never said that. Wait, can you wait first? Mr. Villa, I might have to mute you. I'm sorry. I had to mute you. You first have to acknowledge that I did not say that. I did not say that boys and girls are the same, but I'm gonna unmute you, let you go. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to throw something in there real quick.
Okay, all right.
Here's a better way of maybe my friend explaining it. If you look at previous years of black boys and then compare them to now, you're going to see a decline.
Yeah.
Now explain why we read less. Because when you were in the 4th grade, you read on the 4th grade level. When you were on the 8th grade, you read on the 8th grade level. So on. Why are black boys now going through high school and getting out and they read on the 7th, 8th grade level?
In an environment, that's arguably safer than they were before.
Do you think and the internet at home.
Huh?
And the internet at home and on their phone. Why are they reading at a lower level with more tools, especially in their household?
Because in the environment that we're in, this digital age that we're in, more people are more inclined to playing video games than they are reading. Their imagination is their imagination is somewhere else. But before we had video games to the extent that we had before, then people would read. The same way that people before that there were before there were movie theaters, people would watch plays before they were, and the acting, just a little tidbit, a little filmology for you. The acting style from what people used to perform in plays used to be in the big golden age back in the 50s, how they would act in films in the 50s. That's still hey, Joe, the way they would deliver their lines, that came from plays. So, of course, that's what I'm talking about. Nowadays, most boys, the number one buyers of digital content is boys. Not girls, boys.
Females.
They don't read. We don't do that.
You muted.
Females, bring it up. Females consume more media than males, I think, in general.
No, they don't. Now I'm talking about video games. I'm talking about video games. I'm talking video games. Video games.
Well, the point is, if the girls are spending less time in front of a screen and in the book, and somebody's making them do it, and somebody's not making the boys, there's a problem. Do you
Listen,
saying the girl? Are you saying
yeah,
your
I would
girls
say
naturally
that
pick
would
up
be.
books
I would
and
say
your
that would
boys
be.
won't read?
I would agree with you. That would be
Is
a
that what
problem.
you're saying?
But I'm
And
not
the
gonna.
problem
I'm
is
not
the
gonna
parent.
say that. I would agree with you. That would be a problem, but I'm not going to go so far as to say that, like you were trying to infer that, hey, there's a concerted effort to make sure that black boys stay dumb.
There is a concerted effort. Not only is there a concerted effort from the dominant society and the policies that they set, but I think there's literal anti-blackmail and misandry that runs rampant in the black community from both sides, men and women, that doesn't get talked about. Anytime someone talks about it, oh, you just hate women. But we can never address pathologies that black boys have that create some of the negative outcomes they have. Look, we live in more and more in a technical age, in an age where STEM is very important if you want a decent job. And when I say, hey, look, if you saying all those black people love each other so much better than everybody else, why can't our boys read? Does John Singletary have on his thing, hey, look, we need to do something about this? Where are the campaigns? Where's the money that's funneling into programs for black boys?
I'm gonna send you a video. Why don't the young women in their 20s like young black men that's in the STEM?
Hold on. Why are young educated black men considered to be educated lame?
Listen, Mr. Unseen, let me make this point. I'll send you the video that John had a program that he had called the Father something program, so dealing with men and black boys, and that he made a whole video about that.
Is the video on his campaign page? Because that's what I'm looking at right now.
Well, it's on his.
That's the part that I think when it comes to marketing.
Yeah, it's on his YouTube page. If you click on his YouTube page, there's links, because it's a video. So
okay, I'll take a look. I'll take a look at it. But
no, like I said, first of all, I'm gonna, this is a little side note. I'm gonna make you a T-shirt that says "He-Man Woman Haters Club."
But we're not.
Both of y'all. It's gonna have a little picture of Alfalfa.
Oh no, I love women. I love all types of women.
And Spanky is gonna have Spanky's face on it in the back, and it's gonna say "He-Man Woman Haters Club."
But Mr. V, this is part of the problem that we're having when we try to address these issues. All these, well, you hate women, you hate it. All I look. I didn't even say anything about women. I also said that the misandry is on the male side.
You did.
We've seen where men think like this too. We just mentioned black boys. Well, they just need to get it out the mud.
Because they shouldn't even be in the conversation. They just need to do better. They shouldn't be in the conversation of what we're talking about right now. When you make comparisons right now about black boys and black men, it's always in the state of black boys ain't getting the love that they need, and the women getting all the better.
I'm not talking about love.
They get the bigger piece of the cake, and they get the biggest piece of chicken and all that stuff, dude. I don't want to hear that.
Mr. V,
when it comes to black women and black boys.
I didn't mention black women. Not singularly.
You did.
No, not singularly. I didn't say, hey, black women are the cause of this.
You asked me why the black boy is not getting, the same love as the black women.
No, I did not say that. I did not ask that. I said that. I asked if black people love each other so much better than everybody else, why can't black boys read? Why are we neglecting black boys? They can't read. Why are we neglecting black boys? Why are we neglecting?
Cannot
because,
read.
like I said, it's not taking
right there.
It's taking you. What you're doing is taking the stat, and you're not taking in the variables, man. Because black boys and black girls are not seen as the same thing. Why do you keep on making them seen? Why we're not going to look at? I'm not going to look at black girls the same way I say black boys. I'm not.
Are you saying?
If you're doing that, you make it. That's horrible. I mean, so you're saying black boys and black girls are the same?
No,
I'm asking a question.
Are you telling me when you were in the fourth grade you couldn't keep up with the girls when you read out loud?
The same.
All right, I'm gonna mute you.
Yes, they are.
I'm sorry. Look, guys, I muted both of you because we keep talking.
They are.
Look, we keep talking over each other, and that's why I muted both of you. And I'm gonna answer your question. Look, it's real simple. No, I do not think black boys and girls are exactly the same. There's even research out there that black boys and black girls learn differently, or boys and girls in general learn differently, and that you can't just sit most boys down and think they're going to sit still like little girls when it's time to educate them. But the feminists have taken over the education system. That's the model that they've set. And now you've seen not just black boys, even white boys are starting to get bad results. All I'm saying is, where is the concern for this in our community? You keep wanting to say all this stuff about variables. So I said, fuck the goddamn variables. Where's the goddamn policy at to making sure that these boys have what they need to succeed? That's all I'm asking. I'll mute up and I'll unmute you.
And then I'm going to take a turn.
Okay.
Hey, fuck me, pay me. Well, it was raining. I just got robbed. No, fuck you, pay me. Well, my mom just died. Fuck you, pay me.
Hey,
I understand. I understand. I like that. I love that. But
Mr. V, you were muted. You were muted while I was talking, so you're gonna have to. I asked you a question. I don't know if you heard me, but
I heard it.
Yeah,
I heard it.
I heard the question. But you dismissing the variables like I joke around saying
you keep saying variables, but you haven't listened. But you haven't listened to any variables.
You pay me.
You haven't listened.
My house burned down.
Mr. V, you haven't listened. You haven't listened to any variables. All you've done was ask me, do I think black boys and girls are the same? And I've answered your question. No, I don't think they're the same.
No, you haven't answered my question. No,
I literally said I don't. I literally said I don't think they're the same. In fact, that there's studies that have shown that boys and girls
how do you see that? Okay, I'm sorry.
What learning style? But should the finished product be the same?
Okay, so how do you see them differently? They both have the ability to read. That goes without saying. But how do you see them differently?
That means you weren't listening to what I was saying, because I said there are studies that have shown that boys and girls learn differently. And since the feminists... let me finish. No,
I didn't ask you. I didn't ask for a study. I asked, how do you see men and women differently? Boys and girls, specifically boys and girls differently.
Mr. V,
how do you see them differently?
Mr. V,
I didn't ask for a study. I said, how do you see it differently?
Mr. Vidya, I try my best not to go off of anecdotal and subjective evidence. But since you want that, I have noticed the studies have aligned.
You can't.
Can I please finish what I'm saying? The studies.
No, because you jump forward. You keep saying it's an individual. You can't jump back and forth being an individualistic situation and a group thing. You can't do that.
Mr. Vidya, what I'm saying is, the studies have shown what I have observed to be true. So
they haven't. I haven't seen it.
You didn't even listen to what I'm saying, so how would you know? I'm literally telling you what I think the difference is between boys and girls, and you haven't been listening to me because you think that I'm some kind of woman hater, rather than actually listening to me. I think there is a difference between boys and girls and how they learn. And it's been shown, the studies have shown that, and I've seen it for myself. In my own family.
How are they different?
In my own family.
How are they different?
Girls.
How are they different?
The girls usually can sit down and listen for longer periods of times. So if you have a class with 30 people and you have to sit there and get a lecture from a teacher, girls are going to do better in that environment. Boys are more hands-on. Yeah. Boys want to touch.
Boys are more aggressive.
Boys want to go out. Boys want to go on field trips. They learn by doing.
Yes.
All I'm saying is, when black men try to bring these things up, we get a lot of pushback from men like you and other people in the community. You want to talk about all these variables? I'm like, goddamn the variables. Where's the fucking policy to help black boys become more successful? I don't want to hear about some shit that happened in the goddamn slave plantation and black women were scared, and that's how the culture began. We understand how it began. We want to know where it's going to go to, because I tell you where it's going to go to if we don't do something about it. A fucking genocide. Which, you see how I tied that back around? That's what's we're going to get fucking genocided. If you have a bunch of men who can't even fucking read or barely read when they get out of high school, they're not going to become engineers. They're not going to become doctors. They're not going to become lawyers. They're not going to become politicians. Everything you need to sustain a modern day civilization, they're not going to be able to do. And all I get back is pushback. You hate women. You hate women. You hate women. No, I don't hate women. I just love black boys. I want black boys to succeed so these goddamn women can have the men that they say they fucking want. That's the point I'm trying to make. That's the only point I'm trying to make. I'm not trying to hate women. I'm not trying to say we need to take anything for black girls. What I'm saying is, where is the policy for black boys so they can get better outcomes? That's all I'm asking.
And I'm saying even as bad as it was in the 80s,
We went to school.
we got a better product out of black boys and they became better black men. We could read better at least if we didn't turn out to be anything else. Whatever grade level they said, look, you failed the grade. If you couldn't do it, you stayed in fourth grade for the rest of your life.
Yeah, now they just pass them along.
Right. Now they get passed along.
Now they put them in those, what do you call those, remedial classes when there's nothing wrong with them. They're perfectly fine. They put them on drugs and all that shit. No one wants to address it. No one wants to talk about it. It's just, you just hate black women. No, it's not. It has nothing to do with me hating black women. I want black boys to succeed. And look, I'll even say this. I want black boys and black men to succeed whether or not black women want us to succeed. See, that's the difference between, I think, me and you, Mr. V. You think we're all just going to come together. I hope we do. I hope we do. But if we don't, I want to make sure there's policy there so that black boys have what they need to succeed.
Well, I hope I hope you work on the tone of it, because your tone is basically muffling your communication.
No, it's not my tone.
It sounds like
it's not my tone.
You want
to throw a bunch of straw.
You don't care about women.
No, you want to throw a bunch of straw men in there. We have to sit there and we have to attack the straw man instead of getting to the actual point. Look, whether you think I hate women or not, do you want black boys to succeed? Do you want policy specifically for black boys so that they can?
They're gonna have to replicate themselves. They're gonna have to replicate themselves. They're gonna have to have them made. You can't have for a black boy to become a man.
We're not talking about mates. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm talking about the fundamentals they need when they're in their formative years. See, that's the issue that I see. We're catching these boys way too late.
I agree. So that's what I was saying earlier. So how do women factor in this conversation?
You keep bringing up the women, and I wasn't. I even said that. Look, this misandry exists on the male side too. Men are saying this shit too.
But if you want to look who's the main guardian who could actually step in and say, all right, turn off the video game.
But Mr. Ancine, I didn't even want to get into that because I don't want to make this about black women. I'm trying. Look, that's what this show is about. Educating black men and black boys on the realities of our situation so we can make better choices.
If it's a single black father, it goes double for him. Get it right.
Listen, I'm trying to stay on topic. The topic of the show is about genocide.
Yeah.
The end of a race. I'm saying that's the reason why I'm on the mate thing. That's the reason why I'm like, dude, we can't reproduce with a bunch of men and boys. So that's the reason why I'm saying, dude, listen, with black girls and black women, listen, if you want to have a conversation on how we can make, upstanding young men, I'm willing to have that conversation, but not in the process of downing black women or black girls. I'm not doing that.
We've never done that though. It's
counterproductive.
We haven't.
It's counterproductive. You just did. You just said wise black boys on the of all the demographics.
All I asked Travis was if black people, not just black women, if black people, this is your belief that we love each other more than any other people or better than any other people. All I was saying was, why can't black boys read? Why don't we love black boys enough to have policy set up so they can succeed?
Men or women.
I didn't say women, men or women.
Yeah, because because you're not taking in factors of video games and the culture that we live in. You're not talking about we're talking about demographics. We're talking about when I mean not demographics. I'm talking about economic background. Are we talking about someone who has the money to be able to, the time to be able to read, to take the, is this from a two-parent household or a single? So many different variables on that, man. That's the reason why I'm saying you got to factor that in.
Okay, so we know the girls can read. They're coming from the single-parent homes. Why can they read, but the black boys can't read?
Because again, that goes back to what I was originally saying. Because boys are seen differently than women. They are, man.
See differently.
A girl is going to be. Listen, a woman is going to be protected. A black girl is going to be protected. They're going to have. I treat my little girl different than I treat my boys.
Protected.
I want her to say that.
Protected in what way? Protected in what way?
Meaning that listen, dude, that's my little girl. My boy's got to be out before at the age of 18. She can stay home.
So you're
going to let boys not learn how to read?
So you're only proving what we're saying. That's all we're saying. You're only proving what we're saying.
Listen, dude.
We know. I know your father's story.
I do not treat. Listen, I'm trying
to learn how to read and write at a young age. Yes or no? Yes or no, Mr. Nvidia? Were you not forced? You were very literate at a young age.
No. I'm not trying to raise a parakeet. I'm trying to raise lions. And you eat what you kill out here. I don't got time to sit here and try to, conceal with your feelings and everything. That's cool and everything.
Are you not a lion? Are you not a lion? Did your father?
That boy's gonna be eaten up. You seen the movie 300? You seen the movie 300? Did you see the movie 300?
Mr. V,
listen, I ain't got time for that. Listen, that's the reason why. That is the reason why we have weak men, because we're too busy catering to their feelings instead of dealing with it.
Wait,
and understand and educating these boys and giving them the tools.
No, I can't let you finish.
Let me finish making my point. We're not giving these boys the tools.
Mr. Video, I gotta mute you because you're doing it again. You're throwing up.
I hope I didn't offend you, dude.
No.
I'm sorry if I did.
No, because you're doing it again. You're throwing up another straw man, and I don't think it's fair.
I don't even know what you're talking about at this point.
Well, he said that we're talking about black boys' feelings. That's not what we're talking about. If anything, what we've been saying is we're talking about boot camp for black boys. We're talking about getting them to a position where they'll be able to fend themselves in the society they're about to grow up in. And part of that, I'm sorry, is education. They got to know how to read. At least they got to know. That's the minimum. They at least got to know how to read at proficient levels if they're going to have any chance of success in this society. But I'm going to unmute you. You too, Mr. Unseen. So I don't think that's fair. That's not. We weren't saying that. We got to cater to their feelings and whatnot and all that. We're not saying that. We're not even saying that you got to treat.
Listen.
Boys
I agree. I agree.
And my point was, and I didn't want to make it, but I remember you telling me how hard
Your father was
on you, making you learn how to read and write essays at a young age. If that doesn't happen with the next generation of boys, we won't get another lion like
there's your genocide. We could sit here and we could talk about women doing better and reading and making more money, all that stuff. Look, here's at the end of the day, this is women across the board. I'm just talking about women don't build societies. They maintain culture, they pass down culture, but they don't build societies. So the longer we continue to neglect black boys, tying it back again, our genocide is assured. And this idea that, that if you keep going back to this idea that somehow because there's a difference and somehow we have some kind of blind spot because there's a difference, I don't think that's a good argument. I mean, you still haven't really truly answered any of our questions. Where's the policy? Where's the urgency? I don't see it. I see excuses being made. And then anytime someone else brings it up, we call misogynist or we hate women and stuff like that.
Well, okay, I apologize if it seems like I'm calling because I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna have to end it because I gotta go.
We gotta get out of here. We went way too long. We were supposed to do like an hour.
I really appreciate the conversation, man.
It's been long, man.
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation, man. We'll have a part 2 to this.
Most definitely.
And I don't know if you have seen the movie. I don't know if you have seen the movie Flowers of the Killer Moon, but definitely watch it.
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
I heard it was predictable.
I've seen the Flowers of Argonaut. What is it, Flowers of Argonaut or something like that? Yeah. What is it? Yeah. The NIHM? Or the NIMH?
What are you talking about, Mr. Johnson?
National Institute of Mental Health. There's something called the Flowers of Argonaut.
Interesting book, right?
Right? Something about a mouse getting intelligent or something.
Okay. All right, we're gonna end it there. We are gonna do a part 2 because there's other parts of the United Nations definition that I think we should go over. But I think it actually wrapped around when we started talking about black boys. Yeah, we are going through a genocide, and one of the major things you see is the bad outcomes black boys are getting, and therefore black men are going to get. It's evident.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we'll end it there. Thanks for coming up.
Thanks,
Mr.
man.
D. It's always
All
good
right,
having you.
no problem. I appreciate y'all having me. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man.
Flowers are Aganon.
Flowers of Aganon.